Part 18. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 171. Chapter 171 I will not let go of anyone who tries to be my enemy. How can someone who can follow brothers Zhao Bin and Zhao Deng and be entrusted with important tasks be a good person? After listening to Zhao Bin's instructions, Sun Xiaogang patted his chest and promised, brother, don't worry, although I have not received professional training, there is still no problem in shooting fixed targets. Brother, just watch it. Ha 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 ha. No problem, big brother believes you, let me blow his head off. What I hate most are people with abilities that destroy the balance. If you can't use it for me, then just die. Although Zhao Deng didn't speak, the cold eyes under his gold-rimmed glasses had already betrayed his thoughts. With his hands on the edge of the rooftop, Zhao Deng looked down. He was waiting for the man's head to explode on the street. Instantly, that blood flower must be very beautiful, right? Quick! Xiaogang, hurry up! Looking at the street below with a telescope in his hand, Zhao Bin kept waving his hand to signal Sun Xiaogang to hurry up. Sun Xiaogang raised the anti-equipment sniper rifle, placed the stand, and aimed at the man's head on the street through the scope. Calming down, feeling excited, Sun Xiaogang held his breath, remained still, and quickly pulled the trigger. Bang! A dull sound echoed high in the sky. Even if the anti-material sniper rifle was equipped with a silencer, the sound was still loud, but there was no comparison. Before installing the silencer, it was already much better. Sun Xiaogang did not leave the scope, looking at the scene in the picture excitedly. He was waiting for the moment when the man's head exploded on the street. He liked this feeling. The end. The legend of others is a very satisfying thing in itself. No matter how awesome you are in the future, no matter how powerful and weird your strength is, you will die in my hands today. Just think about killing someone who will be very awesome in the future. Or, how can this not make Sun Xiaogang excited? Zhao Bin next to him was also very excited. He held the binoculars in both hands and bent down hard to look down. It seemed that this way he could see the opponent's head exploding into a rotten watermelon earlier. Bingo! 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 Grass! Damn you, why did this kid suddenly move his head? What a bad luck! Putting down the telescope, Zhao Bin slapped the rooftop angrily, his tone indescribable annoyance. Zhao Deng, who lowered his head and looked down, with a faint confident smile on his face, froze. He thought that the shot that was a sure shot turned out to be empty. Zhao Deng couldn't help but curse. How could it be empty? From what Zhao Bin meant, the other party's head suddenly moved and he just dodged the bullet. Isn't that okay? His face darkened. After coming down, Zhao Deng could no longer maintain the confident and calm expression before. He snatched the telescope from Zhao Bin's hand. With the help of the telescope, Zhao Deng could clearly see the situation on the street below. What he saw at the first glance, Zhao Deng secretly cursed his bad luck. He realized that the man on the street had actually spotted them. Are you kidding me? They are now nearly 300 meters high. Are the other person's eyes electronic? Otherwise, how could it be possible? Seeing so far away? But looking at the other party through the telescope, even though Zhao Deng didn't want to believe it, the other party's eyes that never moved away told him that the other party was so outrageous. He discovered the thing on the roof of the building from nearly 300 meters away. Looking at the cold look and eyes on the other party's face, Zhao Deng felt very uneasy, always feeling that a disaster was imminent. Suddenly turning his head to look at Sun Xiaogang in a daze, Zhao Deng scolded, what are you waiting for? Don't shoot yet. Are you waiting for the other party to come up and kill us? Sun Xiaogang came to his senses with a start, his face turned red, and the shot he was sure of missed, even the fixed target was missed. This is so embarrassing. He set up the anti-material sniper rifle again, and took aim again. He hit the man on the street, but what frightened him was that as soon as he aimed his sight at the other man's head, the other man immediately looked over, as if he was looking at him from nearly 300 meters away. Same. This weird situation frightened Sun Xiaogang, and he almost accidentally misfired. Shoot quickly. What the hell are you waiting for? Next to him, Zhao Deng looked at the grumbling Sun Xiaogang, unable to suppress the fear and anger in his heart, and shouted loudly. Sun Xiaogang endured the fear in his heart, and his fingers were trembling uncontrollably. Zhao Ben next to him looked confused and completely he didn't realize what was going on. Wasn't it just a bullet that escaped him by luck? As for being so excited, he didn't notice anything was wrong. The main reason was that he didn't see Lin Fan's suddenly raised gaze. Maybe when he looked when you arrive, you will notice something is wrong. Bang! The anti-materiel sniper rifle fired again, a burst of fire erupted from the muzzle, and a bullet instantly shot into the street below. The gunfire sounded. Zhao Deng looked at the situation below nervously. The same there was also Sun Xiaogang who shot. As for Zhao Ben, he looked bored. He had no sniper scope or telescope. He couldn't see anything. At a height of nearly 300 meters, he could only see the blurry shadow below. On the street, Lin Fan stared at the roof of the Universal Hotel with cold eyes. Just now, a sense of peeping came from high in the sky. Lin Fan was still a little confused. Before he could raise his head, a sharp whistle came over. It was a bullet from an anti-materiel sniper rifle. The bullet was aimed at his head. Although the anti-materiel sniper rifle bullet could not even scratch his skin, Lin Fan was not in the habit of being beaten while standing. He turned his head slightly and he dodged this bullet that a normal person would never be able to dodge. In Lin Fan's eyes, it was not easy to dodge this bullet. It was as slow as a snail crawling. How could he not dodge it? The sonic boom sounded next to his ears. In a flash, a deep pit appeared on the ground behind. This was the pit left by the anti-materiel sniper bullet. To Lin Fan, a few hundred meters was no different than a few meters. Looking at the top floor of the Universal Hotel, Lin Fan sensed the three figures and found that there were quite a lot of people in the Universal Hotel. The total number of men and women was close to 2,000, and the majority of them were women, with men probably accounting for less than 1/3. Unexpectedly, there was an unexpected gain. This was probably a small surprise. Before that, he had to deal with the people on the roof. Before Lin Fan could figure out how to deal with him, he found that the people upstairs were targeting him again. He, Lin Fan, was puzzled. Is he so stubborn? The whistling sound of bullets came. Looking at the sniper rifle bullet coming directly between his eyebrows, Lin Fan tilted his head again, and the sniper rifle bullet missed again. Grass. Is this even a human being? Dodge bullets. On the rooftop, Zhao Deng saw the scene clearly. His face was extremely ugly. He knew that he hit the steel plate this time. These ability users are so terrifying. Not to mention their weird abilities, they are also so strong that they are inhuman. Hide. What is the operation of bullets? Especially the bullets of anti-materiel sniper rifles that are being avoided. What is the concept of this? The flying speed of bullets of anti-materiel sniper rifles is upwards of kilometers per second. From here to the man below, there is no limit. 600 meters, that is to say, the man dodged 2 sniper bullets in a row in less than half a second. This is not luck at all. One shot was okay, but this is 2. From now on it took less than half a second to hit the target. Could this be luck? Looking into each other's eyes through the telescope, Zhao Deng could see the killing intent in the other person's eyes. The other person wanted to kill them. That look was very cold. It's like a cold-blooded murderer who doesn't care about human life at all, or in other words, the other party doesn't regard them as human beings at all, and killing them is like trampling a few ants to death. This kind of person is the most terrifying. Sun Xiaogang he was also stunned, and missed 2 shots in a row. This time he saw clearly that the opponent turned his head slightly, and with a small movement, he dodged the sniper bullets he fired. What kind of concept is this? He encountered what level of abnormality is it? Able to dodge 2 headshot sniper bullets in less than half a second? Zhao Deng's roar was so obvious that even if Zhao Bin couldn't see clearly what was going on, he could still see the street. The figure standing on top did not fall. Turning to glare at Sun Xiaogang who was still in a daze after being shocked, Zhao Bin cursed angrily, kicked him away, picked up the anti-equipment sniper rifle and took aim. Lin Fan on the street. Are you drafting it? Let me see if you die this time. Pulling the bolt, Zhao Bin looked at Lin Fan who was looking at him in the sniper scope, and angrily pulled the trigger. Die for me. On the street, Lin Fan turned his head slightly to avoid the bullets fired by Zhao Bin. He took his time and looked at the 3 men on the rooftop quietly, as if he was watching 3 clowns. On the roof of the building, Zhao Deng's heart sank to the bottom. Hearing the gunshots beside him, he knew that this decision was wrong, and the result was that he got into trouble with the terrifying existence in front of him. Next we are probably going to live in a nightmare. Walk. Must go. We can no longer stay in the Universal Hotel and must move immediately. Zhao Deng was not carried away by anger. He did not want to die. He was able to survive until now because he was calm enough and understood what it means to protect oneself wisely and to leave the Green Hills without worrying about running out of firewood. He understood it thoroughly. Grass. Out of bullets. Where are the bullets? Next to him, an angry Zhao Bin emptied the bullets in the anti-material sniper rifle magazine, and roared at Sun Xiaogang next to him while his shoulders ached from the shock. Are you looking for this? For you. The sudden sound from behind made Zhao Deng slightly startled. How could there be someone behind him at this time? He suddenly turned around and looked at Lin Fan who had appeared behind him at some point. Zhao Deng was paralyzed with fear and struggled to lean on the person next to him. The wall, his eyes full of horror and panic. Zhao Deng never expected that 1 second, the other party was still on the street on the ground, and the next second suddenly came behind them. This was simply too terrifying. The other party didn't even touch them. Taking it to heart, it's a shame that they still dared to provoke each other. Looking at Lin Fan who suddenly appeared behind him, Zhao Bin was paralyzed with fear. As for the sniper rifle bullets Lin Fan held in his hand, he had no courage at all. Go and pick it up. The anti-material sniper rifle in his hand fell to the ground. Zhao Bin looked pale, with cold sweat on his head. He looked at Lin Fan in horror and stammered, "Forgive me. Spare me, yes, we are too blind to see Mount Tai, sir, just pretend you have never seen us and treat us like nothings." Sun Xiaogang was not much better. He was also paralyzed on the ground with fright. His face was pale and he couldn't say anything. He no longer looked confident and ferocious as before. He squatted down and looked at the 3 people leaning against the wall of the rooftop. Lin Fan he took out a sniper bullet from his hand. The bullet was very long and had a sharp top. Looking at the sniper bullet held between his index finger and thumb, Lin Fan said softly, "I don't know if you have watched Peaky Blinders. I like it very much. There is a sentence said by the actor Thomas Shelby in it. Why? Because we have the strength, because we just have the strength. If we have the strength, let's do it. If we let them off now, they will fight back." Holding the bullets of the sniper rifle in his hand, Lin Fan looked at Sun Xiaogang next to him. "I let you go, will you let me go again, just like you didn't let me go before, so I came. Before that, you thought you had the strength, so you did it. In order to prevent me from counterattack, you fired shot after shot. And now, it's my turn." With a flick of his finger, The sniper rifle bullet passed between Sun Xiaogong's eyes at a speed twice as fast as the anti-material sniper rifle. Plop! The dead body fell to the side, and the wall behind was punched out. A transparent hole, with a look of horror in Sun Xiaogong's eyes even to the end. He turned his eyes to Zhao Bin, who was shaking his head and unable to make a sound of fear. Lin Fan picked up a sniper bullet again. Thomas Shelby also said, "I almost got everything I wanted." Almost. Because of this, his brother died and his wife died. Because of the vendetta, the other party kidnapped his wife and children. Because that's the only thing missing. I won't make the same mistakes on TV. No, no. Let me go, I will never repay. Puff. The sniper rifle bullet was ejected again. Before Zhao Bin could finish begging for mercy, there was a bullet hole in his head. What you said is useless, I don't believe you won't retaliate, even if you are just an ant in my eyes, although it won't cause any impact, it is very annoying. After saying this, Lin Fan flicked his finger again, and a bullet was fired out. Zhao Deng, who was standing on tiptoe not far away and wanted to sneak away, froze up and his body fell limply on the rooftop. I will not let go of anyone who tries to be my enemy. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 172. Chapter 172, Space Power Level 6, Opening a Space Channel. Zhao Deng's body fell to the ground, his eyes still filled with despair, regret and resentment. He hated why such a powerful ability was not his. He hates it. If he was so powerful, everything he would gain would definitely be more than just this. He hates it. Why are things beyond his control? He hated why Lin Fan was so terrifying, crossing a distance of hundreds of meters in the blink of an eye and appearing out of thin air on a rooftop hundreds of meters high. He doesn't deserve to die. But these hatreds have become meaningless. After he died, he no longer had any capital to make a comeback, nor a chance to start over again. The creed that Lin Fan adheres to is that if anyone messes with me, I will eradicate him. You will never be merciful and give the other party the slightest chance to retaliate. It cannot be said that the situation of repaying kindness with kindness does not exist in the world, but Lin Fan will never test whether his enemy has the virtue of repaying kindness with kindness. Why should he leave the choice in the hands of his enemy? If you kill the opponent cleanly, won't all your worries be gone? Besides, he is so powerful, why should the other party mess with him? He has not grown up enough to become an enemy of the world. Where do these people get the courage? As long as you have a peanut with wine, you won't get drunk like this. Do you still have a little respect for people with superpowers? Without even glancing at the three corpses lying on the rooftop, Lin Fan walked down the stairs step by step, with a few sniper rifle bullets jumping up and down playfully. At the top of the stairs, two men in black suits turned their heads when they heard the footsteps. The suits were bulging high with muscles, giving them a fierce aura. Seeing Lin Fan coming down the stairs, dressed and moving so casually, the two men in suits were a little confused for a moment. They remembered that only Zhao Deng and three people went upstairs. Why did a man they had never seen suddenly appear upstairs? Who are you? Why do you look so unfamiliar? Where is the boss? Raising his eyebrows, Lin Fan smiled and said, "Are we looking for your boss? You should be a guest at the King of Hell. I will send you to see him." Slightly shocked, the two of them realized something was wrong and immediately took out their guns, but Lin Fan's movements were much faster than them. Two bullets flying in his hands flew out instantly, two blood flowers exploded, and a smell of blood greeted them. "Come on." Plop. The two corpses fell limply to the ground. Lin Fan didn't even look at the two corpses, but continued to move forward aimlessly. In the corridor of the presidential suite on the top floor, with the pink carpet under his feet, he looked at the people standing there. The man in black at the door of the presidential suite flicked his finger, and the two men who had just turned around turned into corpses without saying a word. There are 56 floors in the Universal Hotel. Lin Fan walked step by step, and the men blocking the way were not at all. When he couldn't reach Lin Fan's figure, he was hit in the head by a bullet flying in mid-air. The door couldn't stop Lin Fan's footsteps, so he kicked in one by one and killed the men. If there was a woman, just leave a word. Turn around and leave, regardless of whether the other party was sprayed with blood or screaming in terror. Perhaps the women's screams were too harsh, and soon a group of men with guns rushed up downstairs. These men, they all looked fierce and held long or short guns in their hands. When they saw Lin Fan coming out, they fired without thinking. Bang bang bang. Click click click. The sounds of pistols and microcharges kept echoing. Lin Fan walked forward expressionlessly. 3 feet in front of him, there were more and more bullets, large and small, but they could not cross the 3-foot distance. Looking at the strange scene in front of him, he emptied the magazine. The men with bullets panicked. When Lin Fan took a step forward, they subconsciously took a step back. The invincible firearms lost their effect. These people didn't know what to do for a moment. Especially when facing Lin Fan, that this fear of the unknown made these men swallow their saliva and keep retreating with frightened faces. Perhaps the pressure was too much. The man at the front couldn't bear the almost suffocating pressure, so he yelled, turned around and ran away. The man's action caused a chain reaction, and a group of people fled in a hurry. Lin Fan shook his head disdainfully, bullying the weak and fearing the strong. The firearms in his hands are ineffective, like a group of toothless tigers, they don't even have the courage to rush forward and fight. What a bunch of rubbish. With the thought, hundreds of bullets flew out in front of them, and large amounts of blood mist exploded from the backs of the men running at the end. The dense bullets almost turned the men at the end into a hornet's nest, and their motivation was not reduced at all. The bullets flew all the way, and no one was spared. The dense bullets flew directly to the wall at the end, leaving hundreds of black bullet holes. It was too simple. Even if these ordinary people were in large numbers and holding firearms, they were still just an ordinary person. Is like giving a nuclear bomb to a baby. Can he threaten an adult? The difference in strength is as terrifying as a dimension. The final end of these people is death. Going from level to level, Lin Fan doesn't know how to kill. How many men died, probably 400 to 500, until no man was found in the sensor. Room 8101 on the 8th floor of the Universal Hotel, looking at the two women huddled under the quilt with only their heads exposed, said, pack your things and wait for me here. I will be back before evening to take you away. Throwing these words, Lin Fan walked out of the room, and his figure slowly sank into the ground. When he reappeared, he was already on the street. It's still early, and it would be a waste of time to go back with these women. It's better to move forward. If we can still find a team of survivors, we can take them back together at that time to save us from traveling back and forth. Wouldn't this save a lot of time? Lin Fan is a master in time management. Standing on the street, looking at the zombies that smelled the scent of living people and rushed towards them with brainless roars, Lin Fan shook his head, and with a wave of his hand, a 2-meter-long half-moon-shaped space cut all the way through the space, as if there was a silver-blue thin line out of thin air. Flying past, in the blink of an eye, the corpses on the main road were instantly cleared out of a blank area 2 meters wide and 100 meters long. Ding! Killing zombies add 1, points add 1, space control ability experience add 1, current experience 9755/10,000. Ding! Killing zombies add 1, points add 1, space control ability experience add 1, current experience 9999/10,000. Ding! Congratulations to the Lord for advancing to LV6 with his space control ability. 0/10W of experience is required to advance to the next level. Ding! Killing zombies add 1, points add 1, Space Control Ability Experience Add 1, Current Experience 20/10W. Ding. The promotion speed of high-level superpowers is very slow. Until now, he has barely been promoted to level 6. Along the way, Lin Fan has killed more than 10,000 and nearly 20,000 zombies. After leaving the inner city, the number of zombies has increased a lot. This number is the scale that a magic city should have. The main roads are densely packed with zombies, and even the buildings on both sides are full of people who are stuck to the glass and want to rush out. Zombies, but the quality of the glass in these commercial buildings is very good, and zombies can't rush down at all. Unless zombies are so crazy that they keep hitting the glass, it is difficult to destroy these high-quality tempered glass just by scratching and biting it with your fingers. The space power constantly strengthens the body. As the space power improves, Lin Fan can feel that he has more control and understanding of space, and he can also do more incredible things. After the promotion and strengthening, Lin Fan looked at the zombies rushing forward. He raised his arm and grabbed the void. The space tens of meters in front collapsed out of thin air. The zombies in this range were instantly crushed and turned into an irregular sphere. Even the blood was blocked by the collapsed space, and no trace of blood spattered out. Putting aside the corpse that was compressed into an irregular and huge spherical shape, Lin Fan lightly stroked his index finger, and the energy of the space flowed through his fingertips. At this moment, the space was like a curtain, and a clear crack was easily opened by Lin Fan's fingers. The dark cracks exuded a creepy aura. Looking expectantly at the crack in front of him, the space energy in Lin Fan's body was continuously poured out to maintain the space crack in front of him. Lin Fan was trying to open up a space channel. With the support of the continuous space energy, the space crack became more and more. It was so big that waves of heart-stopping breath spewed out from the cracks in the space. A large amount of space energy was lost, and Lin Fan's face turned pale. The fluctuating space cracks gradually stabilized. 100 meters in front of the main road, a space crack appeared out of thin air. The crawling space crack was like a wound, repairing itself in the world. Under the mechanism, he constantly wanted to heal, but was blocked by another force. Maintaining the output of space energy, Lin Fan's unremitting efforts finally allowed the space crack 100 meters away to be completely opened into a passage. Looking at the space passage that had been completely stabilized in front of him, Lin Fan stepped forward and stepped in. When he appeared again, the figure has arrived 100 meters away. After walking out of the other end of the space passage, Lin Fan turned his head and looked at the still stable space passage behind him, with a hint of joy on his face. After being promoted to LV6, the space power can finally open up space channels, but the energy consumption is a bit large, and the distance is also very short. A mere 100 meters distance consumes more than half of the space energy, and the effort and reward are somewhat disproportionate. For Lin Fan now, the distance of 100 meters can be crossed in less than half a second. However, Lin Fan is not discouraged. After all, the space power level is only LV6, and there is still a lot of room for improvement. Starting from LV6, it is for a superpower to truly reach its completion stage. The early stage can be regarded as laying the foundation at most. After L6, every time you advance to a level, the changes brought about are earth-shaking. Just when Lin Fan was in a daze with joy, the surrounding zombies gathered around. These zombies don't care whether you are excited or desperate. In the eyes of these zombies, living people mean they can be eaten. Just like when humans eat rice, do they think about whether the rice in the bowl is sad or happy now? Obviously it's not possible. Looking at the roaring zombies rushing over, Lin Fan raised his arm and tightened his 5 fingers. At this moment, the space of hundreds of meters in radius seemed to be affected. There seemed to be invisible thin lines on Lin Fan's fingers. As the fingers tightened, the thin line instantly cut the space of hundreds of meters in radius into thousands of pieces. The limbs of the zombies in this space were twisted and misaligned. The broken space completely cut these zombies into pieces, with almost no piece intact. Space is like a knife, fingers are lines, and the lines control the knife, cutting and shattering the space in an instant. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Doomsday. Chapter 173. Chapter 173 Zhao Wanking's powerful power and the turmoil in the police station. Ding. Killing zombies add 1, points add 1, space control ability experience add 1, current experience 309/10W. Ding. Killing zombies add 1, points add 1, space control ability experience add 1, current experience is 701/10W. Ding. Killing zombies add 1, points add 1, space control ability experience add 1, current experience 1206/10W. Ding. How many zombies are there on the main road within a radius of several hundred meters? Lin Fan didn't know this clearly. Listening to the reminder sound that kept echoing in his mind, Lin Fan found it very pleasant. The only fly in the ointment is the promotion experience. The experience is 10 times that of low-level abilities, which makes Lin Fan feel like he has a toothache. It's only level 6 now? Promoting to LV7 requires 100,000 experience, which is equivalent to the promotion of low-level abilities from LV7 to LV8. It's so big. The space returned to normal. Looking at the open space channel, Lin Fan waved his hand to disperse it. Only now at LV6 can a 100-meter-long space channel be opened. When promoted to LV7, the distance will definitely increase a lot, and the space channel is not Lin Fan's ultimate goal. The space portal is it? While thinking about it, all the broken corpses on the ground had turned into ashes. Not to mention anything else, at least in this regard, the wood elemental power is the best power for killing people and stealing goods. There is no need to worry about zombie corpses blocking the way. System, open the properties panel. Character, Lin Fan. Strength, 325. Agility, 320. Intelligence, 341. Physique, 370. Points, 2,970. Ability, Magnetic Field Control LV7 Lightning Control LV7 Wood Element Control LV7 Earth Element Control LV7 Demon Cat LV7 Space Ability LV6. Experience, 47891/10W, 15217/10W, 11257/10W, 17508/10W, 20199/10W, 2015/10W. Items owned, Flying Knife. There was not much improvement in force agility. What caught Lin Fan's attention was that in just over half a day, just like riding a rocket, his points soared from the previous 20,000 to more than 70,000. This increase was truly terrifying. The principle that there is strength in numbers is indeed no joke. Lin Fan is now wondering if his points will exceed 100,000 when he goes back today. It seems very possible. However, Lin Fan doesn't plan to exchange for any high-level abilities at the moment. Nothing else. There is really no time to upgrade. It takes too much experience. Upgrading one high-level ability is equivalent to increasing 10 low-level abilities. How can this be worth it? Live. At least until he can't create a space portal, Lin Fan doesn't plan to exchange for high-level abilities, but he can consider low-level abilities. With this thought in mind, Lin Fan continued on the road. The level of his space power increased, the energy recovery speed increased, and the range of space / became larger. At least it ensured that the gap between output and recovery was not too big. Lin Fan could kill zombies faster. During the day, it was not just Lin Fan who was working hard to kill zombies. 2 kilometers away, Zhao Wanqing, Zhou Ziyan and others were also moving forward quickly, but the progress was not as fast as Lin Fan's. It only took more than half a day to leave. 5 kilometers out, the further you go outside the city, the denser the zombies become. Now Zhao Wanqing's lightning power has also advanced to level 7, and the power of thunder and lightning is even more terrifying. Under the transformation of the lightning power, Zhao Wanqing's figure is more slender and taller, and her graceful figure is hot and moving. As she looks around, a cold light shines in her beautiful eyes. It flashes, making people afraid to look directly. Without the drag of those lower strength female warriors, more than 30 female warriors completely let go of their hands and feet. Facing the massive zombies on the main road, they showed no fear. Like a blockade, they firmly blocked the advance of the zombie tide. Blockade, while Zhao Wanqing blocked the back, turning all the zombies who tried to rush up into charcoal. The group of people was unstoppable. Although their progress was slow, they were moving forward every moment. You must know that they were able to keep moving forward in the face of the impact of thousands of zombies, which is enough to prove the strength of the female warriors today. Powerful. Zhou Ziyan stood in the middle, with the Tang sword in her hand dancing like a butterfly through flowers. Her long and slender figure seemed to be dancing with a moving beauty. She moved forward and backward in a well-organized way. No matter how fiercely the zombies charged, they could not touch them. To half a hair of Zhou Ziyan. More than 30 female soldiers were moving forward when suddenly a gunshot came from the distance. Zhou Ziyan paused and looked forward subconsciously. The gunshot came from the front, but the target was not on their side. Hundreds of meters away, a police station sign appeared in front of us. It was a police station. After the first gunshot, the second and third gunshots came quickly, and then they quickly became denser. The sound of gunfire was like a gunfight, and the scale was quite large. Suddenly a sound of wind came from behind, and it also carried a mature woman's body fragrance. What happened? Zhao Wanqing appeared next to Zhou Ziyan, looking at the police station in front of her. Zhao Wanqing, who had sharper senses, also heard the sound of gunfire from the police station. The sword energy in her body burst out, and Zhou Ziyan slashed out a half-moon-shaped sword energy and rushed forward. The zombies that came over were cut into pieces in an instant. In the blink of an eye, the sword energy flew out for tens of meters. A blank area tens of meters long and more than 1 meter wide appeared in the group of corpses. After the sword energy was cut out, Zhou Ziyan turned her head and looked at the zombies. Zhao Wanqing, who came over, shook her head and said, "I don't know, maybe the two major forces were fighting at the police station in front, but I don't know if it was two separate forces or just a simple internal conflict." Internal strife is very common in the apocalypse. There are no legal constraints, there are people with weapons, and there are many people who don't want to be subordinated to others. Especially when facing the temptation of power and women, internal strife becomes even more important. It's normal. Zhao Wanqing had the same guess in her mind. She looked at the zombies rushing over in front of her and said in a deep voice, "Quickly move forward. Let's break up the fight." Yes, it is to break up the fight. As long as we kill both men fighting, wouldn't there be no one to fight? Isn't this just breaking up the fight? After saying this, Zhao Wanqing jumped out. At this time, she wanted to quickly to move forward. It was up to her to show her strength and clean up the zombies blocking the way, so that she could rush to the police station as quickly as possible. The thunderballs flashed in the palms of her hands. Zhao Wanqing clapped her hands, and the two thunderballs merged, and then a huge thunderbird flapped its wings and flew out from Zhao Wanqing's hand. The thunderbird, bathed in thunder light, vibrated its wings. Its wingspan of tens of meters wide covered the entire main road. In the sound of chirping, the fast and powerful man flew forward, passing by. At this place, The zombies instantly turned into coke and turned into black ash at the first touch. The Thunderbird opened the way, and the entire main road was cleared in an instant. There was no more zombies. The vehicles blocking the road along the way were all electrocuted by the terrifying high-temperature lightning. The coke scrap iron was removed. Standing behind Zhao Wanqing, Zhou Ziyan, and others opened their eyes slightly. Even though they had already seen Zhao Wanqing's power, now they saw such a huge Thunderbird flying hundreds of meters in an instant, and even moving forward. This kind of power is really a bit scary. Let's go. Zhou Ziyan and others came to their senses one after another, and rushed towards the police station following Zhao Wanqing's back. At the Chaoyang Road police station in the Magic City, a fierce exchange of fire was taking place between the two parties. Relying on walls, stairs, and other obstacles, they kept firing, shooting at the opponent with the gun in his hand. Click. Lu Xiaolu took the ring of the grenade in his mouth, flicked his arm hard, and threw it directly to the corner 20 or 30 meters ahead. Boom! The police station was shaking, and there was smoke dozens of meters ahead. Filled the air, flames soared into the sky. Sisters, call me. Damn Wang Hai, who dares to touch my mother? I'm going to kill you today. Lu Xiaoluguzi had a ruthless look on her face, and there was anger in her narrow beautiful eyes. Lu Xiaolu is not a policeman, and has nothing to do with the police. If anything, he is a murderer caught by the police. It cannot be said that she was arrested, she took the initiative to come to the police station and surrendered. The reason is very simple. His father lost everything in gambling and wanted to sell the family house. Lu Xiaolu's mother was unwilling, but the gambling was a mistake. How can a disciple care so much, and he wants to win back again? During the dispute between the two, the furious Liu's father hacked Lu Xiaolu's mother to death with a knife, but he was caught by Lu Xiaolu, who was rushing back. Who was the person who took the chance? There is no rationality, especially after killing his married wife, the rationality is almost zero. The crazy father Lu even wanted to kill Lu Xiaolu, who had just returned home. If it were not for the anti-wolf spray in the bag, Lu Xiaolu might have wanted to kill him. He was brutally murdered. Lu Xiaolu had never liked her father since she was a child. No one would like a gambling father, especially a father who asked for money from the family every day, otherwise he would be violent. Facing the crazy Lu father, and Lu Xiaolu didn't know why her mother died tragically after being stabbed dozens of times. Looking at Liu's father, who fell to the ground and was sprayed with pepper spray and kept screaming, Lu Xiaolu turned black. He could lift everything. Smash anything that moves. Ignoring Liu's father's pleas, Lu Xiaolu smashed him to death. Lu Xiaolu didn't stop until he couldn't see the human shape at all. After regaining consciousness, Lu Xiaolu did not regret it, and then she chose to surrender. After finding out the reason, Lu Xiaolu's sentence had not yet come down, but the end came first. After experiencing great changes, Lu Xiaolu became stronger and formed a small organization with the women who were released from the detention center. Although there were not many, but there were also 20 or 30 people. Also released were some male prisoners who had been detained for 1 or 15 days. But they didn't know that the end was coming, and the police station was in chaos. One of them had just been arrested before they could be transferred. The wanted criminal was also released. The wanted criminal was named Lu Qiaovu. The crime committed by Lu Qiaovu was the rape and murder of more than 20 women. The brutality was beyond imagination. After being released, he decisively killed the police and then seized the guns and lead the other prisoners to form a larger gang. If Lu Xiaolu hadn't seen the opportunity and grabbed some guns and bullets, she and those women would have been imprisoned and become playthings. Both sides were afraid of each other and neither dared. It was easy to start a war, especially when Lu Qiaovu was trying to trick the policemen who stayed behind. Lu Xiaolu's fear became even deeper. More than a month after the end of the world, Lu Xiaolu also led people to search and rescue some survivors. The man Luzialu couldn't believe it. The woman he only saved had no power. It slowly expanded to more than 100 people now. Lukuavu opposite was also not bad, and the number expanded even faster, to nearly 300. There were men and women among them. Men were okay, but women were basically just tools for venting. Many of them were even killed by the perverted Lukuavu when he got tired of it. In this case, the women on Luzialu's side naturally hated him. The two parties lived in peace until yesterday, when Lukuavu quietly took Luzialu away. There is a woman here. If the woman under her had not discovered it, Luzialu would not have known about it until now. The woman under her was kidnapped, and Luzialu knew what happened without even thinking about it. Luzialu was so furious that she completely tore her face apart and took her with her. The people and weapons rushed to Lukuavu's side. Lukuavu was caught off guard and many people died in an instant. Even Lukuavu was forced by the crazy Luzialu to dare not risk his head. In the room, Lukuavu's eyes were evil and he looked very embarrassed. At this time, Lukuavu had a gloomy look on his face. He never expected that Luzialu would go so crazy. Jingle. In anger, another grenade was thrown at him. Lukuavu was startled and hurriedly avoided. He didn't want to test the power of the grenade. Boom. The terrifying explosion roared, and Lukuavu was blown away. He roared angrily, "Luzialu, your horse, didn't you just steal a woman from you? Are you so crazy?" As he said that, Lukuavu faced downstairs. Several shots were fired to intimidate Luzialu and others below. Downstairs, Luzialu's face turned red with anger, and she yelled angrily, "How dare you touch my people? You're just tired of living. I don't care if you play with the women you captured, but if you touch my men, I will kill you today. I'm going to kill you. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers." Author, Doomsday. Chapter 174. Chapter 174. Sister Lu. You shoot.jpg. Grass. Zhenima is a mad dog. Listening to Luzialu's angry scolding downstairs, Lukuavu's mentality is about to explode. Didn't he just play with a woman? Are you going to beat me to death like a mad dog? Lukuavu's head is about to burst with anger. He really has never seen such a mad dog-like woman, but he has nothing to do now. He and all his men are trapped in the west room. The most annoying thing is that he doesn't have many weapons. The few weapons he had were all on him, and now they were all distributed to his subordinates. Lukuavu himself was an extremely vicious murderer, and being able to rape and kill more than 20 women was enough to prove his ferocity. Moreover, Lukuavu was extremely incompetent. He has a sense of security and a strong sense of suspicion. He does not trust his subordinates. Everyone is a prisoner and must be a good person, so he locked all the weapons in the room next to his. He only goes out to find food. Only then will the weapons be distributed, and all the weapons will be collected immediately after returning, and even if they are distributed, they will only give one magazine at most. Lukuavu believes that only in this way can this group of prisoners be reasonably controlled from having any rebellious thoughts. The consequences of this were that he and most of the people were forced to the west housing area, unable to put up any decent resistance. On the contrary, Luzialu's side had more than 100 people holding pistols and carrying pistols on their bodies. Wearing body armor, they even took out hand grenades. The arsenal was locked, and without fire, neither party dared to open the door rashly, because it was a dead end, and once they were found blocked in it, basically you can wait for death. Now because he was caught off guard, the arsenal has been occupied. Otherwise, Luzialu would not be able to get out things like grenades. The situation is very unfavorable to Lukuavu. He is now huddled in a house in the West District with nearly 200 people, not even daring to raise their heads. Luzialu and others who occupied the arsenal simply did not regard the bullets as bullets and fired wildly. The puff sound coming from the wall was audible. Lu Qiaobu and the others who were hiding in the room were panicking. Old boss, what should we do? There are not many bullets left in the pistol. In the room, a bald man lowered his head and asked Lu Qiaobu nervously. His face was full of fear. In his hand, he also held a police gun, but it seemed that there were not many bullets left. There is no way, Lu Qiaobu. He carried several guns with him, but not many bullets. He had fired a lot in order to deter the firepower. The result of this was that there were not many bullets left. Listening to his subordinates' inquiries, Lu Qiaobu gave the bald man a fierce look, slapped the opponent on the head with his backhand, and shouted, "You are so stupid, you ask me, who should I ask?" After being slapped, the bald man was angry and dared not speak, but he was complaining angrily in his heart. "If you don't touch the woman over there, will they risk their lives with you? Damn, there are a lot of women under his command. You don't play any of them, you insist on playing exciting and drafting games. Isn't this because you can't control yourself?" Of course, the bald man would not dare to say this. If he had to say this, Lu Qiaobu would definitely kill him with one shot. He had no intention of risking his life to fight with Lu Qiaobu. Lu Qiaobu had a bulletproof vest on him. Do you have any? Putting aside the issue of body armor, Lu Qiaobu still has some power. If he dares to make any move now, the people behind him will probably put their guns on his head before he can shoot. Although Lu Qiaobu is not a very good person and is very suspicious, but he is so generous. There is nothing fun in the apocalypse, you can only play with women. In this regard, Lu Qiaobu is very generous and does not treat women as human beings at all. Let's play together, it's all common, just throw it away after playing to death. Not to mention this kind of person, he is very popular among the people under his command. As for some of Lu Qiaobu's minor problems, these people have selectively forgotten them. It is the end of the world now. Today there's no tomorrow, why are you thinking so much? Just when everyone didn't know what to do, another grenade was thrown over. This time it was better. It exploded directly in mid-air. It was obviously a matter of seconds. Yes, the shock wave of the explosion directly shattered all the remaining glass. Even because the explosion was at a high altitude, the broken shrapnel flew into the room, injuring many people. Lu Qiaobu was really frightened this time. We're here, just a little bit close. If he hadn't shrunk his head quickly, the shrapnel hitting the person behind him would have landed on his head. At an absolute disadvantage, and his firepower was not as good as the opponent's, Lu Qiaobu knew that if he continued like this, he would be blown to death by the opponent, so he decided. "Baldy, go and bring over the woman we captured." The bald man was stunned for a moment, then nodded quickly and trotted along with his waist bent. Soon he pulled a disheveled woman who had obviously been abused and ran over. "Boss, people are here." Looking at the woman with bruises on her face, Lu Qiaobu grabbed her and yelled outside, "Lu Xiaolu, calm down first, look who this is." As he said that, Lu Qiaobu grabbed the woman's hair and stood up, while his figure hid behind her. A few dozen meters away, Lu Xiaolu stuck her head out from the wall. It was not clear from a distance of several dozen meters, but her outline was roughly, you can still recognize it. "Lu Qiaobu, please tell me what you want to do." In the room, Lu Qiaobu breathed a sigh of relief when he heard Lu Xiaolu's words. "As long as there is something to talk about, it will be fine. I can return the people to you, but your people must retreat, and our affairs today will be wiped out. How about it? From now on, how about I never hit on those women over there again?" Hearing this, Lu Xiaolu had a cold look in her eyes. Before she could say anything, a woman next to her stood up quickly, took Lu Xiaolu's arm and said anxiously, "Sister Lu, please don't agree to him." You can't believe Lu Qiaobu's words. A sneer appeared on the corner of his head, and Lu Xiaolu patted the woman's hand to reassure her, "Of course I know about this. Don't worry, I will never agree to Lukuavio's will. If you touch my people, you will have to pay the price. But Xiaoun is innocent, so save her first. After that, Lu Xiaolu shouted to Lukuavio, fuck you, are you dreaming and haven't woken up yet? Let Xiaoun come over first and let's talk later, otherwise you'll die. In the room, Lukuavio was furious when he heard this. Do you think he is a fool? How can he still talk after the person is handed over? Lu Xiaolu, just say it, can it be done? If not, I will break this bitch immediately. As he said that, Lukuavio put the gun on the woman's head, and the atmosphere instantly became tense. With the gun put on her head, a crazy look flashed in the eyes of the woman named Xiaoun. Recalling the humiliation she had received that day and night, Xiaoun wanted to eat Lukuavio's flesh and drink his blood. Sister Lu, please leave me alone and kill Lukuavio. Kill everyone. They all deserve to die. Leave me alone. I only ask you one thing, kill Lukuavio. I can die with peace of mind. As he spoke, Xiaoun looked at the broken glass in front of him, gritted his teeth and bumped into it. Lukuavio was startled, and quickly pulled her back, saying angrily, you're tired of the horse's work, aren't you? Tens of meters away. Lu Xiaolu gritted her teeth and shouted behind her, where's the explosion-proof shield, where's the bulletproof shield I asked you to get? Get him on top. The woman behind quickly rushed forward holding more than 10 explosion-proof shields. Lu Xiaolu followed behind, and more than 10 people quickly rushed towards Lukuavio. Lukuavio, who drafted it, will you let him go? If you don't let anyone go, I'll blow up all your grenades to death, you beasts. In the room, seeing Lu Xiaolu and a group of people coming over with explosion-proof shields, Lukuavio was instantly confused. How the hell is this going to work? Seeing that Lu Xiaolu was really going to fight to the death, Lukuavio was dumbfounded. He gritted his teeth and roared, stop, I'll give it to you. Outside the house, hearing Lukuavio's voice, Lu Xiaolu quickly called to the women to stop. Soon, the door to the room was opened, and the woman named Xiaoun was pushed out. Xiaoun was successfully rescued. Lu Xiaolu breathed a sigh of relief and patted Xiaoun's back, comforted, it's my fault for not protecting you well. Don't worry, none of Lukuavio's group will survive today. Xiaoyun escaped from death. He thought he would die but was released. However, the previous humiliation could not be washed away. Listening to Lu Xiaolu's comfort, Xiaoyun nodded heavily, with a malicious light in his eyes, Lu sister, you must not kill Lukuavio, I will bite him to death bit by bit. Lu Xiaolu nodded, took out a grenade, and saw the scene through the transparent explosion-proof shield. Lukuavio's scalp exploded, he grabbed a woman next to him, pointed a gun at her head and shouted, Lu Xiaolu, you have the guts, just throw the grenade and see if I die first or this woman. The woman held hostage by Lukuavio looked horrified and kept shaking her head at Lu Xiaolu. She could not speak smoothly in fear. No. No, don't kill me, I don't want to die yet. Half crouching behind the explosion-proof shield, Lu Xiaolu watched this scene, raised the muzzle of the gun in his hand, and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang! A gunshot rang out. It was not Lukuavio who died, but the person who was being held by Lukuavio. The woman was shot in the head and was already dead. Looking at the dead woman in his arms, not only Lukuavio was confused, but even the women on Lu Xiaolu's side were also confused. Lukuavio, I even wonder if your head was kicked by a donkey. Are you threatening me with your women? Are you fucking living in a dream? How much does the woman you serve have to do with me? If you want me to trade the safety of my sisters for the lives of the women under your command, have you eaten too much shit and muddled your brain? Everyone, get on me. Catch Lukuavio alive. More than a dozen women holding explosion-proof shields all understood, and they felt infinite gratitude to Lu Xiaolu in their hearts. Obviously, Lu Xiaolu's words moved them deeply. They never expected that Lu Xiaolu would make such a move, and say in this case, looking at Lu Xiaolu and others rushing over with explosion-proof shields, a ferocious look flashed in their eyes. Good. 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 Since you don't want me to live, you will all be buried with me too. Amidst the crazy roar, Lu Qiaobu took out a remote control from his clothes and shouted out the window, "Come on. Come. If you can, you'll beat me to death. Let's see who can survive then." Lu Qiaobu didn't find anyone to hold him hostage this time. He stood openly by the window with red eyes and a remote control in his hand, which instantly stopped Lu Xiaolu and others. "Do you want to know what I'm holding? I will tell you with great mercy. This is a remote control bomb. I installed a bomb at the gate. As long as I press it, the door of the police station will be blown open, and all the zombies will rush in. Come. If you can, just shoot. Drafting it, aren't you, Lu Xiaolu, crazy? Don't you want to kill them all? Come. I'm waiting for you on the Huangquan Road." Seeing Lu Qiaobu's crazy look and the remote control in his hand, Lu Xiaolu didn't dare to do anything for a while. She didn't dare to bet whether this was true. If it was true, the door of the police station would be blown open. When the time comes, the corpses rush in, and everyone will die. Lu Xiaolu hesitated. No matter how decisive she was, she did not dare to fight to see if this was possible. Bang! There was a gunshot, and Lu Qiaobu was shot in the heart, and a trace of blood followed it. His wide-open eyes slowly shed tears, and he looked behind Lu Xiaolu with a dead look, with shock and deep disbelief on his face. The body fell to the ground, and his only consciousness pressed the detonation button. Boom! A terrifying explosion. The sound came from the direction of the door of the police station. Looking at the fallen Lu Qiaobu, Lu Xiaolu felt like she had fallen into an ice cellar. That remote control. It was real. Who fired the shot? Who fired the shot without my order? Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Doomsday. Chapter 175. Chapter 175. The sky thunder came to the world, and the scene of devastation, the deafening roar and the shaking of the earth made Lu Xiaolu despair. It was not just Lu Xiaolu, but also a dozen women holding shields, not to mention the cowering people in the room. Lu Qiaobu's men and a group of women. At this moment, everyone is desperate. How many zombies are there outside the police station gate? There are so many of them, so densely packed that no one knows how many there are. Such a loud noise will definitely attract all the zombies on the street. No one thinks they can survive the riot of tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of zombies. Turning around angrily, Lu Xiaolu shouted hysterically, "Who fired the shot? Are you all crazy? Does Lu Xiaolu want to die? It's obvious that she doesn't want to die, otherwise she wouldn't have hesitated just now. Now, the door of the police station has been blown open. Let's all die together with Lu Qiaobu, that beast." But after Lu Xiaolu finished yelling, she looked at the group of women standing behind her and was stunned. What kind of group of women are they? The leader was tall and elegant, with an indescribable majesty on his cold face, especially his eyes, which seemed to have a cold light that made people dare not look at them. Behind this woman, a group of women were wearing light clothes, holding tang knives in their hands. Looking at the blood stains and the cold light on the tang knives, it was obvious that these were not toys, but real people capable of killing people. Weapons. A group of dozens of women looked cold and solemn. Just standing there, a wave of evil aura rushed towards them, making people feel fearful. What concerned Lu Xiaolu the most was the cold and charming woman standing in front, who was obviously the leader. The woman held a police pistol in her hand, with white smoke coming out of the gun. It was obvious that it was this strange woman who had just fired. "Who are you?" Facing Lu Xiaolu's inquiry, Zhao Wanqing turned the gun in her hand in a circle, and then handed it to Zhou Ziyan behind her. She moved her tall long legs and walked towards Lu Xiaolu step by step. "I'm sorry, I was the one who fired the gun just now. I bet that his remote control was fake, but obviously, I was not very lucky and I lost the bet." Although she said this, Lu Xiaolu could not see the slightest look of apology on Zhao Wanqing's face, nor could she even see the slightest trace of panic or fear. Lu Xiaolu did not understand. Is this woman crazy? She was not afraid of the next sea of zombies. "There is no need for you to know who I am. Sooner or later you will know who I am. The purpose of my coming here today is very simple. From now on, you are all my prisoners, and your status is at the bottom. You can wait until you bring me back to the City of Judgment. Decide your destiny." Zhao Wanqing's tone was calm, as if she was talking about something simple. Her look was like informing Lu Xiaolu and others in front of her. Zhao Wanqing's tone made Lu Xiaolu completely confused. Why did this woman in front of her, "You guys don't even have any decent weapons, just a bunch of cold weapons. Are you going to take her as a prisoner?" Lu Xiaolu was almost laughed out of anger, although before the end of the world, many women with cerebral palsy on the internet posted some things that were no different from being mentally retarded. Rhetoric, but in reality she really saw such a crazy woman. "You gave your only pistol to your men. I have to say that this was the worst decision you made. You may not have seen clearly what I was holding." Lu Xiaolu's eyes were cold, and the gun in her hand was pointed at Zhao Wanqing's head. "So, do you understand now? I don't have time to waste with you. I don't want to die yet, and my sisters don't want to die either. You'd better not test my bottom line. I don't want to kill women, so don't force me." Looking at the dark muzzle of the gun in front of her indifferently, Zhao Wanqing raised her arm, pointed her index finger twice at the inside of the room and said, "Go, no men will be left behind, and all the women will be brought out as long as they are still alive." Hearing this, Zhou Ziyan inserted the pistol in her back and rushed into the room with dozens of female soldiers. A gust of wind blew in front of her eyes, and Lu Xiaolu looked at the dozens of women who disappeared in an instant. It took her a while to recover, but then she heard screams coming from the room. "Do not kill me! Do not kill me! I don't want to die! I'll fight with you!" Bang bang! Ding dong! Various sounds came from the room, as well as the sound of pistols being fired. Lu Xiaolu's eyes were blank, looking at what was happening in the room, and she was a little doubtful about life. What did she see just now? She was almost shot face to face, less than 3 meters away. The woman who took over the pistol actually blocked the bullet with the knife in her hand. Damn! Are you kidding me? Are you filming a movie? Cutting bullets at close range with a cold weapon? You really think of yourself as a superhero? Looking at the women who were so fast that they almost had after images, Lu Xiaolu didn't know what to say. Immediately afterwards, she felt her hands loosen. She quickly came to her senses, only to find that the gun in her hand had been taken by the woman opposite. "I held it in my hand and kept turning it in circles. You." Looking at the calm-looking woman in front of her, Lu Xiaolu didn't know what to say. This woman's position was obviously that of the one giving orders. She must be very powerful to be able to order those terrifying women, right? She now understands why the other party uses a knife instead of a hot weapon like a pistol. It's not that the other party doesn't have it, but that the other party's rank no longer bothers to use pistols. No matter how useful the pistol is, it has to be replaced with bullets. Where can the knife come from? Quick! It can chop bullets at close range. At this speed, isn't it a waste to use a pistol? Looking at Lu Xiaolu in front of her calmly, Zhao Wanqing asked, "Understood? If you understand, just stand aside. I don't want to bother, and I don't want to kill a woman." The other party returned the original words, and Lu Xiaolu suddenly felt her face getting hot, but I can't find anything to say to refute it. "Sister Lu. Sister Lou. Over at the gate, zombies rushed in, many zombies rushed in. Not far away, a group of women ran over with panicked looks on their faces. They all held police firearms in their hands, and even had a lot of grenades on their bodies. Some of the women also held explosion-proof shields. Luzilu's face changed. Shen, in fact, she didn't need to be reminded by these women. She also saw zombies running from a distance. The dense number almost made her despair. Looking at this scene, Zhao Wanqing shook her head boredly. Give the pistol back to you. A dark shadow flashed before her eyes, and Luzilu hurriedly caught it. When she looked at Zhao Wanqing again, she was stunned. Zilla, zilla, sizzle sizzle. Waves of electric current surged around Zhao Wanqing's body, and her hair moved automatically without wind. Zhao Wanqing slowly flew up into the air bathed in thunder light. At this moment, the sky suddenly darkened. I don't know when large black clouds appeared in the originally clear sky. These black clouds moved as fast as ink, and soon covered the sky. Thunderbolts rolled in the clouds, and thick lead clouds with its majestic power. Everyone was almost suffocated. Looking at the heavy lead cloud that almost collapsed the sky, and then looking at Zhao Wanqing flying in mid-air, surrounded by endless thunder and lightning, Luzilu was stunned, dumbfounded, and stunned. Not only her, but also a dozen women next to her and more than 100 women who rushed over were dumbfounded. Lu, Sister Lu, Thunder, Thor. That god of thunder. The Thor we saw on the post before. A woman next to her holding an anti-explosion shield had dull eyes. She kept patting Luzilu's arm with her other hand, her tone filled with shock and excitement. Luzilu had already recognized this figure without the woman next to her reminding her. How similar is it to the one in the video? And this terrifying vision of heaven and earth. It turns out that the god of thunder is a woman? Now Luzilu understands. No wonder the other party doesn't take her seriously at all, no wonder the other party doesn't take the gun in her hand seriously here. Her subordinates are so strong, the gun in her hand is probably scrap metal, right? Looking at the zombies rushing in front, Luzilu suddenly looked forward to what Zhao Wanqing would do next. Presumably, the next attack must be shocking, right? And with Zhao Wanqing here, their situation of certain death seems to be able to be reversed. Flying in the air, Zhao Wanqing looked solemn, her eyes exuded endless divine light, and her thunder and lightning powers advanced to LV7. Although she broke through at that time, there were no terrifying visions of heaven and earth like Lin Fan, but there was no problem at all in changing the weather, or even controlling the celestial phenomena in a small area. The lightning in the palm of her hand was like a dragon, and the lightning splashed. Zhao Wanqing seemed to be holding thousands of rays of lightning in her hands. He waved his arm down hard and shouted thunder. Boom! The sky and the earth shook, and there was a terrifying roar like the sky was falling. Lead clouds filled the sky, and dense thunder light stirred on the surface of the clouds. As Zhao Wanqing's voice fell, thousands of thunder lights fell from the sky, and dense thunder struck hundreds of people ahead. Meters area at this moment, the sky and the earth suddenly brightened up, and the sky and the earth became one color with dazzling white light. Zilla zilla! Thunderbolt! Thousands of thunderbolts fell from high altitude, and the area in front instantly turned into a boundless sea of thunder. The zombies were vaporized in the sea of thunder before they could hold out for even half a second. The terrifying thunderbolts boiled all the way towards the police station gate. The direction spreads away, and the thunder light splashes and flows, covering everything in front of it in the boundless sea of thunder. Thunder fell from the sky, and dense craters were blasted out on the ground. The terrifying thunder fell like a ground-washing blow, falling into the distance. Everything in its path was evaporated, leaving only the flowing thunder pool and giants all over the ground. Numerous plumes of green smoke rose from the ground, and the soil was scorched black by lightning. The walls of the police station were shattered by lightning. Wherever the lightning struck, there was nothing left, only huge craters and blackened earth. At a glance, the area thousands of meters ahead was completely cleared, and some obstructions were left. The house was even completely shattered by lightning, and the terrifying destructive power wiped out everything in an instant. In the sky, Zhao Wanqing slowly descended from the sky. As the thunder light on her body converged, the dark clouds in the sky slowly dispersed. The sun's rays shone down. If the ruin-like scene was not so close in front of her eyes, Lu Xiaolu would have almost doubtful, is it an illusion? Is that kind of power really within the control of humans? Looking blankly at Zhao Wanqing with a dull expression in front of her, Lu Xiaolu couldn't come back to her senses for a long time. Is Zhao Wanqing in a calm mood? Obviously, she is not calm. This is the first time since she was promoted to level 7 that she has fully fired up and displayed her strongest strength. Although it consumes a lot of money, Zhao Wanqing is very excited. Very excited. At the same time, I was shocked by the destructive power she caused. This is a devastating sight. It was really her fault. She was extremely excited, but Zhao Wanqing didn't show any emotion on her face. Zhao Wanqing was very good at managing this expression. Looking at Lu Xiaolu, who was stunned in front of her with dull eyes, Zhao Wanqing asked, "Do you have any questions now?" "Without, gone." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Doomsday. Chapter 176. Chapter 176, Crazy Temptation on the Edge of Death. What else can Lu Xiaolu say? Now she has absolutely nothing to say. Question. Any more questions? She didn't dare to have any problems. Just like Zhao Wanqing said, she didn't want to bother or kill women. The prerequisite for this was that she didn't know how to flatter. Does Lu Xiaolu want to die? Of course I don't want to die. How can an ant survive, let alone a human being? Lowering her head dejectedly, Lu Xiaolu was a little confused now. From now on, she would be a prisoner? Commander, all the women have been brought out, 65 in total. At this time, Zhou Ziyan came out after cleaning up all the men in the house. Zhao Wanqing looked at the women who kept walking out of the room and ordered, "Put these women together with the women next to them, and then find a safe place." After we settled down properly in the place, we continued to move forward and took them with us when we came back. The finishing work at the police station was done quickly. All the guns and ammunition in the arsenal were taken away. By the way, Lu Xiaolu and others were asked to bring their belongings and some clothes. Zhao Wanqing found a building to settle them down. The police station couldn't be used anymore, the gates were broken, and there was no way to stop the zombies. She didn't want to spend a long time, and when she came back, all the women turned into zombies. That would be too uncomfortable. After settling Lu Xiaolu and others, Zhao Wanqing took a look. She glanced at you and warned, "If I come back and find that you have escaped, don't blame me for being ruthless when I catch you next time." Throwing these words, Zhao Wanqing, Zhou Ziyan, and others quickly left the building and plunged into the sea of corpses that was about to come. A few kilometers away from the left, Lin Fan stopped and looked from behind to the right. Withdrawing it, he just felt the huge thunder and lightning energy fluctuations, as well as the terrifying heaven and earth phenomena. After a little perception, he discovered the movements of Zhao Wanqing. Finding that he was just clearing out a wave of zombies, Lin Fan no longer wanted to paying more attention to it. He waved a space slash and walked forward without stopping. As he walked step by step, the zombies under his feet turned into fly ash. The corpses of the zombies were destroyed, and the vehicles blocked on the street also disappeared. Everything had been broken down into steel plates and piled on both sides. Apart from the blood stains on the ground, the main road today has returned to some of its pre-apocalyptic appearance. The sun above our heads gradually set towards the west, and it was already 4 o'clock in the afternoon before we knew it. Seeing the sun still radiating light and heat on the horizon, Lin Fan shook his head, gave up the idea of moving forward, turned around and started walking back, and disappeared into the street in a few steps. Not long after Lin Fan disappeared, some roars following the rushing zombies. They rushed to the place where Lin Fan disappeared, and found that they had lost the smell of living people. These crazy zombies gradually regained their composure and returned to their previous relaxed state. At the Universal Hotel, shortly after Lin Fan left, all the women in the hotel gathered together and packed the restaurant on the 9th floor. There were many women in the Universal Hotel. Some of them were brought here by the Zhao brothers before, and some originally belonged to the Universal Hotel. Plus there are many kinds of people, as many as 1,000 people, which is a very large number. In the restaurant on the 9th floor, women gathered together, with confusion and fear about the future on their faces. These women have been tortured a lot since the end of the world. Became instinctively afraid of everything around them, especially when they saw corpses everywhere outside, they became even more frightened. As for Lin Fan, this unknown man, they were even more frightened. Many of them saw how Lin Fan was the men who killed those men. Those who had yelled, beat, scolded, and ravaged them were like lambs to be slaughtered in Lin Fan's hands, with no power to resist. They did not dare to disobey Lin Fan's orders, so they took them. They got their belongings and then gathered together, waiting for their next fate. They didn't know what they would face next. Is it a new round of torture? Will it be more terrifying than these men at the Universal Hotel? Or will it be worse than the men in the Universal Hotel? Should these men be gentler? Should the torture be less intense? They no longer dare to expect the comfortable life before the end of the world. They only hope to be tortured less. This is their biggest extravagant wish. But not all women think so. Yes, in front of the crowd, several women gathered together. You and I were saying something. What are we going to do? Just wait here? Waiting for that man to come back and then pronounce our next fate. Wu Yelai looked at the women in front of her, her face filled with unwillingness. After she passed the initial period of fear, as Lin Fan left, the unwillingness in Wu Yelai's heart grew like a weed. The feeling of being treated like a bitch, she doesn't want to continue living the same life. Before the end, she was a famous female boxing fighter on the internet. She often punched famous vs and kicked celebrities online. She carried the banner of female boxing and led people who don't know how many fishing boats, how powerful and high-spirited she was at that time. How many well-known figures have become her defeated generals. But now, with the end of the world coming and the order collapsing, who cares who she is? In the eyes of those men, she is a beautiful bitch, she can play whatever she wants. She hates this kind of life extremely, but she can't resist those men. She can only kneel next to her and laugh, and then pray for some food to satisfy her hunger. Now the chance to turn over has come. The arrival of a man broke the dominance of the Zhao brothers, and all the men were killed. And the man disappeared after leaving a word. Wu Yelai was not willing to accept such a fate, so she wanted to resist. She wants to control her destiny in her own hands. Instead of facing a new round of oppression. Faced with Wu Yelai's questioning, several women were equally unwilling. They have had enough of that kind of life. They are so arrogant that they will never go back to it. If they accept that kind of life, they must resist. Of course it's impossible. We are living people, not goods. We have our own thoughts and rights. Why do those men control our destiny? Enough. I've had enough of that life of not being as good as a dog. I want to resist. I will never give in again. Right? I will never tolerate that kind of life of begging for mercy and being used as a tool for venting, but what should we do now? Although she thought so in her heart, several women didn't know what to do. Seeing the expressions of several women, Wu Yelai smiled in her heart. The goal she wanted has been achieved. The next step is to put several women. The scapegoat is pushed out. If this thing succeeds, it would be best. Her status must be the highest among this group of women. She can even play these stupid women to death little by little and become one of these women. The winner. If it fails, it doesn't matter. It's not her who stands up and speaks out. The disaster will never affect her. This is the best of both worlds. What she needs to do now is to push these idiots to the front. She did this kind of thing a lot before the end of the world. Being a female boxing fighter is not something anyone can do. First of all, you have to have a brain and a vision. You have to understand what kind of people you can't mess with and what kind of people you can go to. Trample them to death. Don't mess with some real high-level people or rich people, otherwise you won't know how you will die in a matter of minutes. These high-ranking big shots are not something you, a female boxing fighter, can criticize if you want to. That's you're really going to die? Do you really think that your personal information will not be leaked? It's very simple. Why do you get a bunch of text messages pushed to your mobile phone number every day? What kind of games, what kind of orders, what kind of promotion of this information? Do you really think that the other party is? The numbers you dialed just happened to be sent to your mobile phone? No, 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 it's too naive to think like this. Your mobile phone number and other information were all leaked to those game production companies by companies such as China Mobile and Telecom. How could it be possible otherwise? There will be so much messy information. As long as these big shots want to mess with you, you will be dug out in minutes, and then you will be killed. You don't know how you died. People need to distinguish who can be messed with and who cannot be messed with. In Wu Yelai's eyes, Lin Fan is very mysterious and cannot be messed with. She doesn't know Lin Fan's character and abilities at all, and she can't judge the consequences of committing suicide, so she needs some scapegoats. It's best if she can succeed, and she deserves to live. Still nourishing, if something happens, let these idiots die, while she slowly plans something else. She made up her mind. Looking at the frowning women, Wu Yelai smiled slightly, and raised her thin lips. The smile is unspeakably mean and cold. Sisters, don't forget, those dead men outside all have guns. As long as we pick up the guns, don't we have the ability to protect ourselves? By then we will be completely self-sufficient and will not need help from others at all. In this doomsday, we women can also lie very well. Who said that only men can establish power? We women can do the same. When Wu Yelai said this, the women's eyes lit up and their hearts beat rapidly. They were obviously a little tempted, but when they thought of Lin Fan, these women were still a little afraid. But what to do with that man? He said he would take us away. We plan to build our own power. Will he agree? When the woman said this, there was a hint of hesitation on the faces of the other two women. They had seen how terrifying Lin Fan was. Just so casually, the man next to him died. This scene was so weird and horrifying. Seeing these few, a woman who had failed to achieve anything but failed to do anything wanted to back off. Wu Yelai secretly cursed trash in her heart and quickly encouraged, I don't think it's possible. Otherwise, why do you think he only kills men but not women? Besides, there are so many women among us, can he still kill them all? Sisters, don't forget that there is a saying that the law does not blame the crowd. As long as most of us choose not to follow him, I don't believe it. Can he still kill us all? Wu Yelai's instigation was very effective. The eyes of the three women became brighter and brighter. The more they thought about it, the more they realized that what Wu Yelai said made sense. There were more than 1,000 women in the restaurant. Could that man kill them all? Looking at the three, the woman's expression, Wu Yelai added another fire. Think about it, he is only one person, and there are so many of us. As long as we pick up all those guns, there are at least hundreds of guns. With so many of us pointing guns at him at the same time, why not scare him to death? No matter how powerful he is, how powerful can he be? Can you beat us with so many guns? We can even catch him off guard. Why would a hornet's nest order us? Sisters, do you think this is true? The eyes of the three women were completely firm. At this time, they had been completely hypnotized by Wu Yelai's words. Their swelling hearts made them forget their fear, and their boundless desire for freedom and rights arose. Good. Okay, deal. If he dares to show up, then we will beat him into a hornet's nest. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Doomsday. Chapter 177. Chapter 177 Stupid Delusion, Vicious-Hearted Woman. Can three women make it happen? No, these women are not stupid enough to confront Lin Fan with just the three of them, so they want to incite these women in the restaurant. Only if these women listen to their arrangements and take up arms to fight against the outside world can they have the courage to fight against Lin Fan. Possibility of victory. There is strength in numbers, and they still understand that the law does not punish the masses. Three ambitious women were wandering among the many women in the restaurant. Each woman was surrounded by more than a dozen people. Under the lobbying of the three women, some women's eyes shone with brilliance and they nodded frequently, while some were naturally timid. The timid woman shook her head and refused. Regarding the latter, although the three women cursed each other in their hearts for not living up to expectations, they did not show it. They did not have so much time to waste, and they were not sure when Lin Fan would come back. If too much time is wasted, Lin Fan comes back, and they don't even have weapons ready, then what's the point? At the edge of the crowd, Wu Yelai and a dozen women gathered together, looking at the three women in the crowd from time to time, her smile full of disdain. She was just showing off here, and actually didn't say anything. She wanted to stay behind the scenes, and if she failed, she wouldn't be implicated. The three women didn't know that Wu Yelai had already made up her mind to trick them. They were all scratching their heads and salivating before they walked around the restaurant. I don't know if the more than 1 month of the apocalypse has smoothed the edges of these women, or if they feel that their plan is unreliable. Among the more than 1,000 women, there are not many women who agree to do big things with them. 200 to 300 people. This amount made the three women very dissatisfied, but there was no other way. While they were disdainful of those cowards, they also made up their minds that once the matter was successful, these women would be enslaved by them and driven by them. Before the end of the world, Huo Meijuan's identity was the secretary of a certain boss. She probably did it sometimes, but she was fucked by the boss when nothing happened, that kind of thing. I was originally on a business trip with my boss this time, but the apocalypse suddenly broke out. The boss was not killed by zombies, but was killed by a living person. I have to say this is very ironic. Huo Meijuan didn't want to die or starve, so she decisively sold her body. Anyway, it wasn't just once or twice. In Huo Meijuan's heart, she didn't think it was anything, and she even thought the man was stupid. In this aspect, if men are comfortable, women are obviously more comfortable. They can feel full at the same time, so why not? Of course, this is also because she has no ability, otherwise she would never be willing to do this. Now the opportunity came. Those men were dead, and no one picked up the weapons when they fell on the ground. Wu Yelai's words made her feel that there was a lot to be done. As long as they mastered the weapons, did they still need to be afraid of zombies? With the weapons in her hands, she could also enjoy a noble life that she had not enjoyed before the end. As for Lin Fan who saved her, indeed, she admitted that the man was scary, but what could she do? No matter how powerful it is, can it withstand hundreds of pistols? In modern society, guns are the most terrifying weapons. No matter how high your martial arts skills and strength are, you will still be knocked down with one shot. As for being grateful to Lin Fan for saving her, that's not the case. For a selfish woman, the word gratitude does not exist in the dictionary. In Huo Meijuan's opinion, isn't it appropriate to save her? Isn't it natural for a man to help a woman? Men are all born of women, so why should men make the decisions in this society? She feels that this world is not normal. Shouldn't it be a matriarchal society? Men are like worker bees, responsible for doing the work, and women are the queen bees, who only need to enjoy life and then accept the seeds of the excellent drones. What makes a good drone? He is handsome, has a good figure, has enough capital, and has strong firepower. He can start in half an hour. This is what women should do. As for whether to have children, Huo Meijuan doesn't consider it. Women are not fertility machines. Besides, giving birth is so painful that it is absolutely impossible to have children. Women are born to be held up, and men should just be obedient and serve as stepping stones. With this idea, Wu Yelai almost hit it off with her words. The only thing that made Huo Meijuan very dissatisfied was that these women were so useless, without any ambition or courage. Such women deserve to be enslaved. Gathering hundreds of women, Huo Meijuan and two other partners, Li Yuan and Yu Xiaoxiu, found Wu Yelai. After successfully summoning hundreds of women, Huo Meijuan felt that life was a little different at this moment. The awe-inspiring and flattering eyes made her feel a little carried away. She seemed to walk a few ounces lighter, and even her eyes became full of arrogance. Yelai, how about taking a look at the hundreds of people behind me? Okay. The tone was unnaturally arrogant and vain. Huo Meijuan felt that she had never been so noticed since she was a child. Even in the company, her colleagues were respectful on the surface, but in fact they secretly called her a mistress. She knew all this. But it was different now. Being surrounded by all the girls and enjoying the stars holding the moon was so wonderful. She was already a little obsessed with this feeling. Looking at Huo Meijuan's appearance, Wu Yelai sneered in her heart, where did she end up like this? However, her face did not show her inner thoughts. Instead, her face was full of surprise and shock, and she seemed to be very shocked by Huo Meijuan's achievements. Sister Wan, in less than 2 hours, she has convinced so many people. Sister Wan is so capable. If it were me, I would probably not even have 1/10. Huo Meijuan felt indescribably grateful for being complimented by Wu Yelai. She quickly waved her hands and said modestly, "It's all thanks to Yuan and Xiaoxiu. It's not my fault alone." Although she said that, Huo Meijuan's raised chin and uncontrollable smile had betrayed her true thoughts. "Sister Wan, since we are all here, let's go out and find weapons quickly. Can everyone shoot? If you don't know how, I can teach you. I went to the shooting range several times before the end of the world and I have some knowledge about guns." Wu Yelai knew that time was running out, so she changed the topic without leaving any trace. Huo Meijuan looked a little embarrassed. She was a little secretary before the end of the world. Where would she have the opportunity to touch a gun? At most, she had seen it on TV, but the one she had seen was the same as her own. Two concepts. Without Wu Yelai's words, she might not even know how to aim when she picks up a gun. "Yelai, I'm sorry to trouble you, sisters, as we said before, let's find weapons first and then gather in the restaurant." Huo Meijuan waved her hand with great momentum and walked out of the restaurant first. The women who participated in the rebellion were also very excited and followed her out one after another. Wu Yelai walked at the back, looking at the women who were disappearing at the door one after another, her eyes raised slightly. Snorted softly and followed up slowly. No matter what, she still needs to do something. She has already arranged an escape route. It depends on how things develop next. Regardless of success or failure, she can gain Li. Hundreds of women dispersed in the Universal Hotel. Soon, Huo Meijuan and others gathered in the restaurant. Everyone looked excited, holding pistols in their hands, and some even stuffed them in their waists. 1. obviously a lot of weapons, far more than the number of these women. In the restaurant, Huo Meijuan led a group of women to surround Wu Yelai, listening carefully to Wu Yelai's explanation of how to shoot, how to aim, the correct posture and how to load the bullet and open the safety. As Wu Yelai explained, the women nodded frequently, whether they understood or not, just nodded. Time passed quickly, from lobbying to picking up weapons, to pre-war preparations, a few hours it passed quickly. Looking at the time, it was already after 4 o'clock. Huo Meijuan winked at the women and said, "Sisters, it is already after 4 o'clock. Let's all take our places, forming a semicircle. The door of the restaurant is surrounded. As soon as that man appears, we will send him on his way. At that time, we will be completely free." Hundreds of women with excited faces came to sit around the door of the restaurant one after another, their eyes fixed on the door. The other women all knew what was going to happen next, so they all backed away some distance. But the restaurant is so big, even if they are crowded together, they will be less than half a meter away from these women at most. Wu Yelai held a gun in her hand and quietly retreated to the back, placing the gun in her hand on the table below. She was only one step away from the women behind her, and she was ready. If Lin Fan came back and was caught off guard and was killed, she would take out her gun and pretend. If these women failed, she could step back into the crowd and be an innocent person. Wu Yelai is betting. She knows that Lin Fan is not simple. After all, there are so many Zhao Deng brothers and so many guns. Even if they are defeated one by one, it can prove that Lin Fan is very scary. But she had no idea how terrible it was. But Wu Yelai was not willing to accept her fate and be taken away, so she encouraged people like Huo Meijuan to be her guinea pigs, taking the lives of so many women in order to have a better life in the future. When placing bets, Wu Yelai, a woman with a vicious heart. It's chilling. In the nervous, expectant, and excited eyes of many women, there was a burst of footsteps outside the restaurant. When they heard the sudden footsteps, the women were highly nervous. Verification: her eyes were wide open, her whole body muscles were tense, and the hand holding the gun turned white from excessive exertion. Her heart was pounding. Huo Meijuan's eyes were fixed on the door. She knew that the next victory or defeat depended on this one move. Now, a wonderful life is beckoning to her. Now she has to take action. She has no way to turn back. Even if Wu Yelai tells her now that things have changed, or tells her all the conjectures in her heart, Huo Meijuan will never change her mind. The hope that is so close, the beautiful life so close, are as thick as a thin layer of paper. As long as you break it, everything will be at your fingertips. No one can stop it. No one can. She can't stop her. She will kill anyone who dares to stop her. Under the expectant and nervous gazes of hundreds of women, the footsteps outside the restaurant are getting closer and closer. Soon, a man's figure appears at the door. At this moment, Huo Meijuan stood up suddenly, raised her arm hidden under the table, pointed the gun at the door, and shouted loudly. "Do it! Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers." Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 178. Chapter 178. Want to play? Can you afford the price? Bang 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 bang. Huo Meijuan gave the order, and a group of women looked like they had been injected with chicken blood. Their eyes were shining, and their arms hidden under the table were raised. According to Wu Yelai's memory, they suddenly pulled the trigger at the door of the restaurant. In an instant, gunshots rang out. It echoed in the restaurant, densely packed like dozens of firecrackers with thousands of rings. At the door of the restaurant, dense firelight spattered. Some bullets flew away, hitting the doorframe, and some hit the wall, but more of them hit the man at the door. There was a crackling sound and the gun hit the flesh. The man at the door was instantly beaten into a bloody man and almost turned into a pile of rotten flesh. The gunfire soon stopped, but none of the women seemed happy. especially Huo Meijuan, whose face was livid, and the other women all looked embarrassed. As for Wu Yelai at the end, let alone her face was even more wonderful. Wu Yelai was about to cry out in excitement when she saw the man at the door being beaten into a hornet's nest. But when she underestimated the height, clothes, and vaguely visible appearance of the man at the door, the smile on Wu Yelai's face instantly froze, and then collapsed. She was about to curse now. The man who appeared at the door of the restaurant was not the man she thought at all. Although she only saw it once, his height, clothing and appearance were completely different from the man who was beaten to death at the door. No, the same. Although she didn't want to be enslaved, she had to tell her that Lin Fan was tall and handsome. You could even feel it through his clothes. He had a good figure. He should be a very fierce and aggressive little wolf dog. It's not the mangy dog at the door at all. Grass. Huo Meijuan was so angry that she wanted to scold her. She was so excited that she hit the wrong person. This is disgusting. You guys move the body out quickly, while the others change their bullets. Next time you can see clearly before shooting. Huo Meijuan was aggrieved, but the man who died tragically at the door was even more aggrieved. If Zhao Bin was still alive, he would definitely recognize him. Isn't the man in front of him the same man who was sent to see why the water was stopped? The man ran away. I didn't check the cause, but I escaped a disaster. I didn't expect that my old place would be ransacked when I came back. I went upstairs and heard a noise from the restaurant, so I rushed over, but I didn't see clearly what was going on. On the spot it was beaten into a hornet's nest. Under Huo Meijuan's order, a few named timid women carried the body away, and several women tidied up the door and cleaned up the blood. Seeing that these women showed no signs of Huo Meijuan felt much better for daring to disobey orders. This is power. It feels so good to give orders from high above. On the other side, Lin Fan was rushing to the Universal Hotel. He didn't know that someone had just taken the shot for him, but even if he knew, he wouldn't take it to heart. What can a few hundred guns do to him? It's just a pile of useless scraps. The figure appeared at the entrance of the Universal Hotel in a few flashes, sensing after a while, Lin Fan noticed the women gathered in the restaurant. But what was interesting was that Lin Fan also felt that many of these women were holding guns and nervously looking at the door. After noticing this situation, Lin Fan thought for a moment. Understood what they wanted to do, snorted disdainfully, and Lin Fan walked into the Universal Hotel. Since those women wanted to play, he would accompany them, but he didn't know whether those women could bear the price. 9th floor in the restaurant corridor, Lin Fan did not deliberately lower his footsteps and walk slowly towards the door of the restaurant. Vaguely, Lin Fan saw half of his head flashing past the door of the restaurant. What could happen no matter how fast? In Lin Fan's mind, in the eyes, it was just a slow movement. In the restaurant, the woman who had just peeked her head out to watch excitedly turned around and nodded to Huo Meijuan. Now Huo Meijuan, including hundreds of women in the restaurant, were excited. With the news just now, this time Huo Meijuan learned the lesson wisely and let a woman wait and watch at the door to avoid shooting the wrong person again. Although bullets are free, they are very precious and cannot be wasted casually. In just a moment, hundreds of women were killed. Thousands of bullets. If you play this way, you will run out of bullets a few more times. They are not Zhao brothers, and they don't know where to find bullets. The footsteps are getting closer and closer, and Huo Meijuan and others' hearts are in their throats. Eyes, Wu Yelai at the back was also staring at the door. Next, was the moment to decide her fate. Under the expectant and nervous eyes of hundreds of people, Lin Fan's figure appeared at the door. Huo Meijuan's eyes lit up and she said decisively, he yelled, "Sisters, take action." Boom. Hundreds of excited women stood up instantly, raised their guns, and dense gunfire and smoke filled the air instantly. Bang 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 bang. The gunshots were fired in succession without any pattern. It was like setting off cannons in the countryside during the spring festival. It was still lively, the muzzle of the gun was spraying flames, and hundreds of bullets were fired towards the door of the restaurant with strong kinetic energy. At the end, Wu Yelai took a step back and stood in the group of timid women, with a fixed look in her eyes. She stared at Lin Fan at the door. Once she found out that Lin Fan had been shot, she immediately moved forward, then took out the pistol hidden under the table and fired at Lin Fan. If Lin Fan was fine, then all this had nothing to do with her, and she could still do it again, find an opportunity to make another plan. Under the gaze of thousands of eyes, hundreds of bullets were fired at the door. Time seemed to be suspended at this moment. All the women saw the bullets flying. No. It was not that they saw the bullets flying. Instead of flying, the bullets stopped not far in front of Lin Fan. The dense bullets stopped in mid-air, as if hitting an invisible air barrier. Seeing this scene, Wu Yelai's heartbeat almost stopped, and her face, a look of deep horror flashed across her face, and she felt indescribable joy in her heart. She knew that this plan failed, and the next step would be the time for women like Huo Meijuan to face trial. She just didn't know what the final result would be for women like Huo Meijuan. What? But these have nothing to do with her. She has done nothing. These things have nothing to do with her. The air was stagnant at this moment. Huo Meijuan, Li Yuan, and Yu Xiaoxiu stood at the front, looking at them with dull eyes. The scene in front of them was not only them, but the women around them were also looking at the scene in despair. They were all frightened. Crash! Ding, ding, ding. Densely packed bullets fell from the air and kept jumping on the ground, crisp and clear. The sound of metal clashing woke the women up from their shock. I don't remember that I ever said that I need you to welcome me in this way. Looking at the women in front of him with a sarcastic face, Lin Fan's tone was indescribably cold. Huo Meijuan was already frightened. She didn't expect that after painstakingly planning for a long time, this would be the result. Hundreds of people, the guns were fired at the same time, but they didn't even hurt Lin Fan's hair. The bullets that kept bouncing on the ground seemed to hit her heart every time. Horrible. It was really terrifying. This man's existence is like a nightmare. Looking at the cold and sarcastic expression on Lin Fan's face, Huo Meijuan was extremely frightened. She didn't know what would happen next, but she understood that what was going to happen to her next would be terrifying. No. Can't be like this. She must take the initiative. She will never be willing to fail like this. What's wrong with us doing this? We are all living people, not goods. We should enjoy normal rights. Why do you enslave us? You men are simply disgusting. They only bully us women and use us as a means of venting. If you have the ability, go kill zombies. I'm not convinced. I cannot be reconciled. I definitely won't stand it any longer. If you can, kill us all. We will never succumb to your power. We would rather die standing than kneel on the ground and live in vain. When people are in desperate situations, they can always burst out with unexpected energy. At this moment, Huo Meijuan burst out and roared at the top of her lungs. Her words resonated with hundreds of women. Some women were still in panic and despair. Hesitant, some remembered all the previous humiliations, and the light in his eyes became firm. Sister Meijuan is right. We would rather die than accept the slavery of your men anymore. We are not a tool for venting. Would rather die than surrender. If you can, kill us. Right? You would rather die than surrender. If you have the ability, kill us. Come. I've had enough, kill me if you can. I curse you, you will go to hell sooner or later. These two short sentences resonated with many women. Under the excitement of the crowd, the women forgot about the fear brought by Lin Fan, and screamed excitedly. Looking at these women who were excited by the crowd, Lin Fan's face, there is neither sorrow nor joy in the world, but before the end of the world, many people may have a headache, because due to the restrictions of the law, especially when the number of people is large, if it is not a heinous crime, no one can do anything good to these women. If you use violence or force, you will definitely face criticism from society. Many people take advantage of this mentality, gather crowds to make trouble, and use fishing boats to confuse ordinary people. People will blindly follow them. As long as the sentences are more concise and the incitement is strong, at one point, most of the ignorant people will become weapons in the hands of thoughtful people. But it's different now. It's the end of the world, an era without law, order, and social collapse. These women in front of him want to use this to force him. Lin Fan can only say that they are too naive. Since waking up, Lin Fan can't remember how many people he killed. Although most of them were men, there was a reason. If she hadn't needed women, she would have killed many people. These women in front of them have forgotten who rescued them from the abyss of confusion. Not only are they not grateful to him at all, but they also want to rebel and kill him, but they still say it so righteously, which is simply unbelievable. Lin Fan ignored the curses of these women, looked at the women behind who were clearly separated from these women, and asked, "Do you think the same as them? Would you rather die than surrender?" The women's faces were full of fear. Under Lin Fan's gaze, they all shook their heads. "No. No. It has nothing to do with us. We didn't agree to do those things. We do not want to resist, nor do we want to be your enemy." The women's voices were noisy, but Lin Fan understood the general meaning, which made Lin Fan relieved. Fortunately, not all women are like this, otherwise this trip might have been in vain. His eyes turned back to Huo Meijuan. Lin Fan glanced at these women one by one, especially Huo Meijuan, who was standing at the front. Is this woman really as willing to die as she said? Just look at the way she dared not look at him. The real person would rather die than surrender. A person who regards death as home will not be afraid of any gaze at all. If she avoids it, it can only mean that she is guilty and afraid. You all want to be free and don't want to be enslaved. In order not to be enslaved and to be free, you would rather die than fight me. That's good. I hope you won't regret it." Hearing Lin Fan's words, Huo Meijuan's heart skipped a beat. She now doubted whether she had made the wrong decision. If she had just knelt on the ground and begged for mercy, would she have been spared her death? But Huo Meijuan had no choice now. She could only walk to the dark side bravely. Not only her, but also other women hesitated at this moment. They had been toyed with by slaves for so long before, but it seems that it is not unacceptable now, right? After the excitement of starting again, these women have become somewhat calm. The woman who wants to leave with me should come with me now, and the woman who doesn't want to leave with me should stay here. Before making a choice, I advise you to think clearly. My tolerance only lasts once. After Lin Fan said this, Huo Meijuan and others breathed a long sigh of relief. They won. They used their efforts to force the men in front of them to retreat. They got the freedom they wanted. The women in the restaurant were in the commotion. Women separated from the crowd and walked out of the restaurant. Huo Meijuan and others did not stop them. In her opinion, these women were all fools. All the women who did not want to resist before walked out, and Huo Meijuan and others were the only ones left in the restaurant. Among the people who came out, Wu Yelai was also among them. Standing at the door of the restaurant, Lin Fan casually moved, and all the guns, including bullets, in the hands of Huo Meijuan and other women were taken away. These are my trophies. You are not qualified to take them away. You can take care of yourself. Let's go. Lin Fan turned around and left the restaurant. Thousands of women followed Lin Fan anxiously. They didn't know what kind of life they would face next. In the crowd, Wu Yelai frowned. She was a little doubtful at this time. Is it different from what she thought? Lin Fan let go of Huo Meijuan and the others so easily. But, Is it possible? Will Lin Fan let them go so easily? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 179. Chapter 179. I am a person who never takes revenge overnight. Real? Really gone. In the restaurant, Huo Meijuan looked at the empty door with a look of disbelief on her face. A woman tentatively walked to the door of the restaurant, looked at the corridor, looked at the empty corridor, turned around in surprise, and cheered Sister Wan. You are too strong. That man was scared away by us. I was scared to death just now. Huo Meijuan is weak now. When she confronted Lin Fan just now, she really thought she was going to die soon, but luckily, she survived. Trying to keep her expression calm and act like a cloud. With a light expression, Huo Meijuan forced a smile and said, "What does this mean? I told you that that man didn't dare to attack us. This is called not punishing everyone. The only pity is that that damn man actually took away our arms." Speaking of this, Huo Meijuan gritted her teeth angrily. Without guns, how can they defend themselves? How can they expand their territory without guns? Do they have to use kitchen knives to chop zombies? It's so abominable. This is a typical example of pushing the envelope. Just now, I was rejoicing. After surviving, they immediately wanted weapons insatiably. After hearing Huo Meijuan's words, these women also reacted and cursed and stamped their feet angrily, with unspeakable viciousness in their words. Wait, where is Wu Yelai? Where did Wu Yelai go? Huo Meijuan originally wanted to ask Wu Yelai for advice, but after scanning around and around, she couldn't find Wu Yelai's shadow. Now Huo Meijuan was a little dumbfounded. What about people? Can they evaporate even if they are fine? Sister Wan, Wu Yelai seemed to have gone out with that group of women just now. A woman spoke weakly. Huo Meijuan was stunned for a moment, and then her face instantly turned livid. Fuck. You're not a coward, you deserve to be ridden. You ran fast when something happened, but you didn't expect that you got yourself into a trap this time. No matter how upset she felt, it was useless. Huo Meijuan waved her hands and said, "Okay, everyone, clean up. From now on, this Universal Hotel will be our territory. From now on, we have the final say here." Not to mention, Huo Meijuan really looked like a big sister when she commanded like this. Downstairs, Lin Fan led a group of women out of the door of the Universal Hotel. The women were all frightened, but no one dared not to leave. For real, when I came to the street, I found that all the zombies that used to be densely packed on the street were gone. Not only were the zombies gone, but even the congested vehicles had disappeared, as if they had evaporated out of thin air. The empty streets were inexplicably, it was a bit desolate and weird. After walking for tens of meters, Lin Fan turned around and looked up in the direction of the 9th floor. His eyes were indescribably cold. Will Lin Fan let those women go? Just kidding, how is that possible? He is not a big shot. Good man, from the moment those women pulled the trigger on him, those women were already dead. Now, it is just the carnival of those women before their death, which first makes them despair and then gives them hope. I just don't know what they will do next. How desperate you will be when you encounter zombies. Wanting to die is actually very simple. The difference lies in how to die. Standing in the crowd, Wu Yelai is doubting life now. Did she make the wrong choice this time? This man didn't even give Huo Meijuan those punishment of women? Forget it if you don't kill them all, but there is no punishment at all, just confiscation of weapons. Is there something wrong with this person? Why did Wu Yelai come out? It's because she felt that Lin Fan would settle the scores after the fall. All the things before the end, the church she made a point. Dogs that bite don't bark. How many times before the end of the world does this happen? Everyone is laughing in front of you, and when the front foot is out of the door, the back foot is on the phone wondering how to kill you. Isn't this kind of thing rare? Wu Yelai is it based on this situation. She chose to leave, but she didn't expect that after walking dozens of meters, Lin Fan didn't make any move. This man actually let Huo Meijuan's women go. Wu Yelai gritted her teeth in hatred. I want to ask, is it too late to go back now? Of course, Wu Yelai didn't have the courage, and she came out with her. If she wants to go back now, isn't she seeking death? She feels that as long as she dares to say it, she will definitely be holding back what she is seeing in front of her. The hot man will kill her in minutes. Just when Wu Yelai sighed and regretted endlessly, Lin Fan, who was standing at the front, moved without any warning. With a grasp of the void in his palm, the magnetic field within a radius of several kilometers was controlled. Under Fan's control, a huge black hole seemed to appear in the sky. Densely packed black dots flew up from all directions and poured into the black hole in a steady stream. Behind Lin Fan, the women were frightened as they appeared out of thin air. A black hole, and it is still devouring zombies in a steady stream. Yes. It is a zombie. Even though it is far away, the women can still vaguely recognize that the zombies flying into the sky are all ferocious-looking zombies. The most important thing is yes, it was the man in front of me who did all this. The women were trembling with fear. They didn't know what Lin Fan was going to do. They were already frightened and didn't know what to do. Among the crowd, Wu Yelai stood up in excitement. She woke up from the shock and looked at Lin Fan's back with dull eyes. She suddenly felt chills all over her body. She understood. Lin Fan was not letting those women go, but wanted to give them the greatest despair. At this time, she no longer had no regrets at all, only endless happiness. This time, her cleverness saved her again. If she hadn't followed out just now, she might have faced these terrifying zombies with Huo Meijuan and the others soon. Without firearms or weapons, Wu Yelai didn't even dare to think about facing these zombies directly when she was caught off guard. That kind of scene must be extremely terrifying and terrifying. Lin Fan didn't know what Wu Yelai was thinking. He controlled the black hole in the sky to absorb the surrounding zombies. If he hadn't cleaned up the zombies in this area before, it wouldn't have been so troublesome. Magnetic field powers are terrifying, and there are many abilities that can be extended. For example, what Lin Fan is using now is gravity. With a point as the center, gravity spreads to all directions, forming a huge gravitational field, rather than a black hole that swallows everything in the universe. Its function is just to absorb all the surrounding zombies according to Lin Fan's needs. It is similar to the 10,000 elements in Naruto, but it does not need to be centered on itself. The terrifying gravitational black hole devoured zombies within several kilometers around it, ingesting thousands of zombies in just a few seconds. After stopping the gravitational field's attraction to the outside world, Lin Fan moved his palms, and a huge black hole flew over from a distance. The huge black hole with a radius of several hundred meters seemed to swallow up even the light, and the sky instantly darkened. The huge black hole slowly descended with a terrifying and suffocating pressure, and then a large number of zombies were dropped, falling on the street ahead like dumplings. The women covered their chins in fear and shivered in fear. If Lin Fan hadn't been standing in front and showed his terrifying power, they might have screamed and ran for their lives now. The magnetic field shielded the smell of all women and even distorted the light, causing everyone to disappear on the street at this moment. Thousands of zombies fell down. The zombies who landed first had their bones broken and muscles broken. The zombies sniffed the smell of living people emanating from the Universal Hotel and rushed in howling. Behind Lin Fan, thousands of women looked at the scene in front of them in horror. Seeing the zombies pouring into the hotel, they all understood what Lin Fan was planning to do. The man in front of me actually wanted to use these zombies to kill all those women. This man is not kind, but terrifying like a devil. Thousands of zombies rushed into the Universal Hotel. Lin Fan dispersed the gravitational field, closed his eyes slightly, and listened to the sounds coming from the hotel. His index finger was still shaking rhythmically next to his shoulder, as if he was immersed in it. In some kind of moving music. Ah! Zombies! Zombies! Soon, a piercing scream came from the hotel, but it was too far away, so only Lin Fan could hear it. Opening his eyes and looking in the direction of the 9th floor, Lin Fan asked in his mind, can the system give me a clear enough and big enough picture? Yes, pay 10 points per minute. Make a deal. After he finished speaking, a huge screen comparable to an IMAX appeared in front of Lin Fan. The picture was clear and lifelike. It felt like he was actually there. In the corridor on the 9th floor, the zombies running up were thrown down. He caught the screaming woman, and while she was screaming and struggling wildly, he bit it down. Blood spurted out in an instant. The woman struggled, and large amounts of blood came out of her mouth. The woman's scream attracted the attention of all the women. When Huo Meijuan walked out of the restaurant and looked at the woman who was pushed to the ground by the zombies and kept eating, Huo Meijuan was stunned. Roar! In the midst of her confusion, the roar of the zombies came, and Huo Meijuan raised her head blankly. Looking at the zombies crowded in the corridor, she despaired. Recalling Lin Fan's words before leaving, Huo Meijuan understood instantly. You don't keep your word. Son of a bitch. You don't keep your word. You clearly said, let us go. With hoarse screams, large swaths of zombies swarmed past, instantly throwing Huo Meijuan and the women who came out to the ground. Screams of horror, howls of despair, and the chewing sounds of zombies filled the whole place. In the restaurant on the 9th floor, all the women were full of regret, wailing and being devoured by the zombies. At this moment, all the women regretted being Lin Fan's enemy. Now they regret it, but there is no regret medicine in the world. What have they done? If you do something, you will have to suffer the consequences. All women have paid the price for their greed. And this price is their lives. On the street, thousands of women looked at the picture with dull eyes, which was more terrifying than a horror movie. Double the sight, the whole body was chilled, especially Wu Yelai, who was so frightened that she almost lost control on the spot. She made the right choice, she was right. The end of the world is more cruel than before, and the horror of human beings is deeper. In the past, it was like what she saw before her. Lin Fan's way of revenge is even more terrifying. If she hadn't followed out, she would have ended up like those women on the 9th floor, becoming food for zombies, bitten by countless zombies, eaten alive, and died of endless pain. Especially watching the zombies tearing apart his own flesh and blood, the feeling is even more terrifying than Ling Kai's. It's also more torturous. This is more terrifying and torturous than being shot to death. The man in front of him is countless times more terrifying. He is a complete devil. The screams echoed. Listening to Huo Meijuan's wailing, Lin Fan sneered. Yes, I did say I would let you go, but that was in the restaurant. I have left the Universal Hotel now. No, I plan to let you go. Is there anything wrong with that? Doomsday, I am the only one in the world who has superpowers. Author, Gugu Da. Chapter 180. Chapter 180. Sudden Surprise, Great Harvest. It wasn't until all the women on the screen died tragically that Lin Fan waved his hand to close the scene that frightened the women. Turning around and looking behind them, following Lin Fan's action, the women all took 2 steps back in fear, with unconcealable horror on their faces. Lin Fan didn't take the women's fears to heart. His eyes swept over the women's faces. Lin Fan smiled lightly and said, you don't need to be so afraid. As long as you are obedient, I will be very kind to you. I don't like others to oppose me. In my territory, you must abide by my rules. Your task is very simple, and I even think I am very kind. As long as you work hard, you can be the same as before the end. No one will bully you. Work every day to earn money and enjoy a quiet life without the threat of zombies. As long as you don't do it yourself. Silly things, no one will do anything to you. Understand? The women's eyes were blank. They all wondered if they heard what Lin Fan just said wrongly. As long as they go to work and earn money every day, that's it? There is no crisis of zombies, and there won't even be men to force them. Treat them as a tool to vent? It's the end of the world. Is there still such a good place in the world? The women even thought that Lin Fan was joking with them. They would rather it was a joke than believe it. Otherwise, they would be full of expectations. When faced with the cruel life that will follow, they will be greeted by the ugly faces of those men, and they may collapse directly. If you understand, let's go. Lin Fan could see all the doubtful looks from the women. Lin Fan didn't explain anything. He said lightly and took the lead to walk towards the City of Judgment. There is no need to explain. These women will know it by themselves. The setting sun shines next. Thousands of women followed Lin Fan anxiously, walking step by step towards the City of Judgment. When they passed the obstacles of high-rise buildings and looked at the tall black-gray city walls rising up in front of them, several kilometers apart, the women they were all stunned. The huge 20-kilometer-long city wall was like a giant dragon lying on the ground. Even if it was motionless, the majesty and heaviness that hit the face were still shocking. These women didn't know how they got here. When they reached the bottom of the city wall, at this time, none of them thought about whether their legs were sore or whether their feet hurt. These women were all shocked by the thick, huge, and indestructible city wall in front of them. Lin Fan brought thousands of people with him. When the woman returned, Zhu Fangfang on the city gate tower had seen it from far away. At this time, Lin Fan came under the city wall. Zhu Fangfang immediately activated the city gate jade talisman in her hand. This was her responsibility as the captain of the city gate guard. Driven by the qi in his body, the city wall seemed to come alive. In the dull and stunned eyes of the women, the thick wall in front of Lin Fan slowly opened to form an arched city gate. This scene in front of him completely subverted the women's imagination. Cognition. Returning to the inner city with the women who could not recover at all, Lin Fan turned around. There was already a female warrior running down the city wall beside him, but it was not Zhu Fangfang. As the captain who controlled the jade talisman, she had the responsibility. It's so important that you can't leave the city gate tower. The two people who came down are members of Zhu Fangfang's team, and they are also powerful female warriors with a strength of more than 20 points. Lord. The two female warriors half knelt in front of Lin Fan. Lin Fan waved his hand to help them up, pointed at the women in front of him and said, "You two brought them back to the hospital. These are your rewards." As he spoke, Lin Fan threw 2 jade bottles, and the 2 female warriors quickly caught them with uncontrollable joy on their faces. "Thank you, Lord, these are our duties and do not require rewards." Looking at the 2 female warriors who were smiling happily, Lin Fan smiled and cursed, "If you don't want it, just give it back to me." When the 2 female warriors heard this, they immediately shook their heads like rattles. "Isn't this a joke? I don't want to be a fool. This is source liquid. Although it is only the lowest level, it can be purchased with only 100 judgment coins, but 100 judgment coins isn't it money? That means killing 10 zombies. Lord, you have given me everything, how can I take it back? That's it?" Seeing the 2 women speaking in unison, Lin Fan shook his head and said with a smile, "Don't be poor, hurry up and do something." The 2 female warriors gave a sweet smile and did not dare to wait any longer. They waved to the woman Lin Fan brought back and shouted, "Stop dawdling, hurry up and leave." The 2 female warriors knew that they were unclean and Lin Fan didn't like them, but it was good to talk to Lin Fan a few more words and stay a little longer. They were already very satisfied. They watched the women go away. Lin Fan shook his head, and disappeared in a flash. In the morning, only 2 sewers under the city gates were laid out. Now it is time to lay out the sewers under the other 2 city gates, so as to ensure that the female warriors to ensure the safety of the city. The next step is a long project, slowly covering every underground part of the inner city with man-eating vines and piranha flowers. Now that the wood element power has been promoted to LV7, the wood element energy has more than doubled. If the LV6 wood element energy is a stream, then the current LV7 wood element energy is a big river. The remaining southwestern sides of the city gate were covered with man-eating vines and piranha flowers. Lin Fan did not stop. Next, he stood under the south city gate, walking step by step. Lin Fan planned to stop when he would use up the wood element energy. When he came back, he walked for more than an hour, mainly those women. He was walking a little slowly. By the time Lin Fan reached the 2 kilometers underground near the South City Gate, which was covered with man-eating vines and piranha flowers, it was already dark when he returned to the ground. These 2 kilometers were not easy, and the entire South City Gate was 20 years long. Kilometers, these 3 kilometers are 2 kilometers from south to north, 2 kilometers wide and 20 kilometers long underground. Lin Fan has completely covered it with man-eating vines and piranha flowers. To do this, Lin Fan has almost exhausted all his energy. If all the wood element energy in Fan's body was to be restored, it would probably take one night. Returning to the supermarket, at the door of the second floor, Li Yun knelt on the ground and helped her change her shoes. Lin Fan looked towards the living room. In the living room, Lin Fan Yu and the others have all returned, but the target of Lin Fan's attention is not Lin Yu and the others, but a bunch of fruits and vegetables placed on the coffee table. Cucumbers, tomatoes, corn, strawberries, watermelon, potatoes, cauliflower, and beans. Almost filling the entire coffee table. At this time, Lin Yu and others were surrounding the coffee table, touching this one, then picking up that one, and praising Zhao Yanyan next to him. Lin Fan came closer. He asked curiously, "What are you doing? Why are there so many fruits and vegetables, and where did this corn come from? So fresh. It has been so long since the end of the world. Even if we find some vegetables in the canteen that are not bad, they are not very fresh. The vegetables in front of us are different. They look like they have just been picked, especially the corn, and corn buds are still emerald green, and there is peeled corn next to it. The corn kernels are so tender that they can be cooked and eaten." Seeing Lin Fan's curious look, Lin Yu smiled and pulled Zhao Yanyan over. He solemnly said, "Being able to eat these fresh vegetables and fruits is a huge contribution to our Yanyan. Every day our classmate Zhao Yanyan goes to orchards, vegetable gardens, and farmland to spread the energy of wood element. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to eat these fresh fruits and vegetables." Looking at Zhao Yanyan in surprise, if Lin Yu hadn't mentioned it, Lin Fan would have forgotten about it. Wood elements can indeed promote plant growth. Even at the beginning, he planned to use wood elements to speed up the ripening of vegetables and fruits. Speed, but I forgot about it when I was busy. Unexpectedly, Zhao Yanyan did it without even saying anything. In fact, this is normal. Zhao Yanyan is so smart, it is not surprising that she would think of this. How many fruits, vegetables, and staple crops do we grow now? Lin Fan really didn't care about this issue. Last time he went to the orchard, he secretly picked a grape to eat, and was discovered. Since then, Lin Fan has embarrassingly never been there. Hearing Lin Fan ask after getting up, Zhao Yanyan thought for a while and said the orchard is about 5 acres. Now there are many varieties, including melons, pears, peaches, strawberries, etc., almost all of them. With the energy of the wood element, there is almost no need to worry about whether these fruits can adapt to the magic city. With the climate and a little wood element energy, these fruits will grow well. As for vegetables, there are about 7 acres of beans, cauliflower, cucumbers, eggplants, and potatoes, and there are many crops. Rice, corn, and wheat are planted on about 20 acres, and they are basically ripe now. Next, we are now self-sufficient and can fully support the current population of our Judgment City. I deliberately left a small area of corn unripened. My lord, do you like boiled corn? It's delicious. Listening to Zhao Yanyan's detailed report, Lin Fan was a little stunned. Unknowingly, had the hospital grown so many things? And they were all cooked. There were so many vegetables that could even be eaten by the female soldiers and maids. In the past, it was all bagged food, or simply bread, instant noodles, etc. There were only some extra snacks at noon, such as luncheon meat and canned meat, and everyone got very little. Vegetables were only available before. You can only eat it here in the supermarket. Now that we have grown so many vegetables, we can naturally supply them to the female warriors and maids. But again, if you want to eat, you have to pay for it. The currency system of Judgment City has been established now. I think what you eat, you work hard and spend money to buy. What you want, you work hard and spend money to buy. Everything is basically the same as before the apocalypse. With the diversification of vegetables and fruits, the development of inner cities will only get better and better. Well done, thank you for your hard work, Yanyan. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't be able to eat fresh vegetables and fruits. Now looking at the charming Zhao Yanyan in front of him, Lin Fan's face was full of smiles. If he was the only one, he would never be able to take care of so many things, and he wouldn't be able to do everything. He's so annoyed. As for boiled corn, of course I like to eat it. Let's eat boiled corn tonight. As arranged, we will eat it tonight.